across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 03444991000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, February the 19th. Here's what's coming up. The King's brother is under arrest. The former Prince Andrew taken into custody after police swooped this morning on his new home on the royal estate at Sandringham. Cops descending on both the front and rear of the house to ensure that Mr. Mountbatten Windsor did not make a run for it. Absolutely extraordinary. Detectives revealed that they are investigating him for alleged misconduct in a public office. He is accused of passing on government secrets to his billionaire pedo pal Jeffrey Epstein, as well as other financier associates when he was British trade envoy during the noughties. Andrew has not been charged, but up to 9 police forces are also probing allegations that he was a central player in Epstein's international sex trafficking operation. He has previously denied any wrongdoing. But in my long and checkered career as a journalist, this may well be the most sensational story I have ever covered. And the fallout is set to affect the King, William, and the rest of the royal family to a devastating extent. Make no mistake, Charles has some serious questions to answer. How much did he know? Standing by to reflect on today's astonishing developments is the author who first revealed the dubious activities of Andrew and his lying wife Sarah Ferguson in what has been described as the most explosive royal book of all time. Andrew Lowney will join me shortly. Also today, has President Trump finally torpedoed Starmer's ludicrous Chagos Islands giveaway? The latest on the fight on the right after my exclusive interview with Rupert Lowe yesterday. And stupid Starmer ignores advice on a key appointment yet again as he makes controversial civil servant Dame Antonia Romeo the first ever female cabinet secretary. Let's hope she lasts longer than the last cabinet secretary Tutia Keir hired against all advice. Will our lamed up Prime Minister ever learn? 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday afternoon together, and what a Thursday afternoon it is going to be. What a Thursday it already has been. Extraordinary scenes this morning as the police swooped on Sandringham. Coppers going to the rear and the front of Andrew's house to make sure he did not do a runner. I mean, unbelievable. Let's go over, as I said, to the author of Entitled, The Decline and Fall of the House of York. This was the bombshell book described as possibly the most devastating, explosive royal book of all time that set the ball rolling, really, on a story that brings us to the extraordinary events of today. Welcome to Andrew Lowney.
Nice to be with you again.
Well, what a day. It's Andrew's birthday, so quite an unhappy birthday for him. I think what we've seen today, I mean, it's not an absolute shock. I mean, we knew events were leading towards this, but to actually see it happen is just mind-blowing, mind-blowing. Now, you know, alone in this country, you probably knew that the direction of travel was heading to this moment longer than any of us because of your research for your extraordinary book, Entitled. But your thoughts now that it has actually come to this, were you as sort of stunned as I was to actually see this happening? The King's brother being arrested and taken into custody for questioning?
Absolutely. I've been saying for days I thought that he would do a runner and he wouldn't face justice. I'm thrilled the police have acted as swiftly as they have. I thought they would drag their feet and kind of try and find reasons not to follow up. So I really take my hat off to them. This is a real surprise, I think, for all of us. Clearly, there was overwhelming evidence that he had given away confidential information, that there was a case for misconduct in public office, and indeed I think there will be a case for him for sex trafficking and even treason, I think, eventually. But this is remarkable, and whether this move was triggered by inside knowledge that he was about to leave or was destroying material, I don't know. But I think this has done a lot to restore public faith in institutions, to feel that the royals are not above the law, and to lance this boil that Andrew is going to face justice for what he's done.
Well, he'll be somewhere in a police room now being interviewed. These initial police interviews do take many hours, so I'm not expecting him to be released. Well, he could well be released during this show. Obviously, we'll keep everybody updated on that. But I would predict that it's unlikely he will be charged today. The manner of these things, the chronology tends to be, 8 or 9 hours of being interviewed and then released on under caution. That is probably what will happen, but nevertheless, a staggering experience for the former Prince Andrew, and absolutely poleaxing for his brother, the King. Now, let's talk about the ramifications for the royal family. Must stress, of course, Prince Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing and has not been charged at this stage. But you and I have spoken often of this $12 million, I think it was, that the royal family stumped up to give to Andrew in order to hand to Virginia Giuffre, one of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking victims, to shut her up, to stop her going to civil court in New York, to claim compensation for her allegation that Andrew sexually assaulted her on 3 different continents, an allegation that he vehemently denies. Most of us say, well, why did you give her $12 million then? So the problem for the royals, I think the epicenter of their blossoming or their exploding problems today is that payoff. What on earth were they thinking? What on earth were they thinking? Giving Andrew that money to hand to a victim of Jeffrey Epstein to keep that paedophile billionaire's sordid secrets. The King is going to have a big problem talking his way out of this, isn't he?
Yes, well, we've discussed this. I mean, we've got to remember that this was a payment made many years ago, before my book was even a glint in my eye, probably, and before clearly these Epstein revelations came out the last few weeks, which have been what's tipped the balance. But yes, I mean, my information is that the King knew far more than he's saying. He is involved, I would say almost complicit in the cover-up. And I mean, if that comes out, then that's clearly very damaging to the monarchy. But as I say, I think this may have lanced the boil. It may have satisfied people that justice was being served, and people will forget that this is perhaps part of a bigger network of protection. I mean, I think we've got questions now for the former heads of, for example, UKTI, former ambassadors, and others about what they knew.
Yeah.
They weren't prepared to talk to me. I hope they'll talk to a parliamentary committee. And I do think that members of staff who perhaps tried to raise these issues but were under pressure because they would lose their jobs and their pensions will be given some immunity to actually speak very openly about what they saw. And this is particularly true of people like the valets, but also the police protection officers, the equerries and others.
Now, I don't know where the police will conduct this interview, but the next bombshell event in this extraordinary saga that we're witnessing right now will be the police sitting down with the King. And that will not necessarily just be an information interview. The King, of course, saying, I'm prepared to fully cooperate with any police investigation. They're going to say to His Majesty, how much did you know? When you gave your brother, or when you and your mother, your late mother, gave your brother $12 million to pay off Virginia Giuffre. Surely you didn't just go, well, yeah, OK, here's the money. How much did the King know? How much did Her late Majesty know?
Well, I think we may see a bit of a fudge here. You know, I'm not sure the King will be interviewed. I think a lot of other people around him will be interviewed, and maybe someone will have to speak for him, like a private secretary. But I think the way the police will deal with it is to talk to lots of other people, and clearly they would be knowledgeable about Andrew's activities.
Well, that's not going to be good enough, though, Andrew. As far as I'm concerned, as a citizen of this country and as a subject of the King, that isn't good enough. Well, this deferential treatment of the royal family has to stop, including the King. If they're going to investigate this properly, they need to talk to the King, not his equerries, not his servants, not his officials, him. They need to do that, don't they?
Well, I mean, I hope, as I say, we've reached this Me Too moment of the monarchy where the old-style monarchy is going and we have a new-style monarchy which is much more transparent. I mean, I think it may be a step too far because, of course, the monarch is in fact the nation. I mean, the crown courts and all these things are basically the crown, the king. But let's see how public opinion moves. I think this may be enough to lance the boil, as I say. I mean, if people do feel that there's still a cover-up, then clearly the King will have to talk. But I suspect they're waiting to see if they can get away with it without that happening.
It's not unreasonable just to say, Your Majesty, what did you know? We'll trust him not to lie. But I think that has to happen. But we will await that event with bated breath to whether or not it does actually unfold. I'll tell you who does need to be talked to is all the officials, the government officials, indeed the royal officials who were around Andrew when he was travelling the world as our trade envoy in the noughties. Because clearly he stands accused of nefarious activity, of abusing that position. Denies it, of course, but he stands accused of abusing his position in a public office. Now, the people around him will also have to be interviewed. And what did they know? Am I right?
Absolutely. And as I approached 3,000 people, 2,700 didn't speak to me, and I hope that some of those people who clearly know a lot will now be prepared to talk to the authorities. I mean, I was told they weren't interested, or good try. And let's hope that, perhaps with PC Plod knocking on their door or a parliamentary committee, they might be a little bit more forthcoming.
The rest of the Ferguson family, if you like, the rest of the Yorks, they need to be talked to as well. Now, you've got to stress, it looks as if the entire York family, was on the take from Jeffrey Epstein. We know Fergie herself, Sarah Ferguson, was, you've told me several times, to the tune of millions of pounds. Clearly, Andrew was getting money from him as well. And it also looks as if it's possible that the two daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, were also kind of on the payroll. In 2015, Princess B was working for Sony. She was earning £19,500 a year. She went on 17 holidays that year to places like ritzy places like Saint-Tropez, Ibiza, Mexico, you name it, she went there. Flashy ski resorts. Well, I'll tell you, she wouldn't have been getting the money from her parents. So I think they need to be spoken to. Beatrice had a lot to do with the negotiations that took her father towards giving that Newsnight interview in 2019, that disastrous interview. There are stories that she helped her mother get back into Epstein's good books after Fergie, to save her own skin, said he's an awful child sex abuser and I will never have any contact with him again. That was a lie. And of course, Eugenie and Beatrice, the 5 days after Epstein was released from a 13-month jail term for soliciting prostitution from a minor, a paedophile offence, Fergie took her two daughters to see Epstein at his Florida mansion, where they dined on vegetable lasagna prepared by his Parisian chef. Now, at the time, people said, oh, how could a mother take her little girls, her poor little girls, to see.
Kevin, I'm going to interrupt you there, if I may. Are there any questions for me that you want to ask?
I'm going.
It's an absolutely busy day for me, as you can imagine.
I want to ask you. They need to be talked to, because there they were, the two daughters, 19 and 20 they were when they went to see Epstein. They must have known about him as well. They need to be.
Yes, I think the family should be interviewed. They clearly spent a lot of time around Epstein and must have seen things. I think there's a whole range of people that need to be part of this investigation. And I suppose we need to leave that to law enforcement. But I certainly can provide a list of names of people who I think could be useful to the authorities.
Have the police been in touch with you with a view to
No, I have contacted. I mean, before all this, I contacted the National Crime Agency and got no response.
That's extraordinary, isn't it? Well, I'm sure they will be in touch. You would expect them to be in touch, wouldn't you?
Well, I hope I have material for them that isn't in the public domain that could be useful. So, yes, I'm very willing to do my bit to help.
When you were researching your astonishing book, I think it's no exact. I agree with the estimation of it as the most devastating bombshell royal biography of all time. And you were unearthing these extraordinary revelations. Did you at that point think, you know what, this is going to lead to something huge, as in what's happening right now?
No, absolutely not. No, I mean, I'm just a biographer who writes books about people, and I try and be as thorough as I can in terms of my research and as scrupulous as I can be. But I mean, I knew that there was this huge scandal here, but clearly history had suggested that the royals were pretty protected and nothing would happen. But yes, I wanted to highlight what I felt was corruption at the heart of the royal family, abetted by the institution itself. But I never expected that something would follow. But I think, we have to thank there the Epstein leaks, really, which have really just brought home the extent of how shameless Andrew was in his behavior, and provided the hard evidence that I think the police now clearly are going to draw on.
And you've got your amended or your updated edition of your book coming out on May the 1st, is that correct?
May the 21st.
May the 21st. Can we expect even more extraordinary revelations in that?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of new material, even with the revelations from the Epstein leaks. There's a lot of stuff that I've got from other sources. So almost too much. I have 150 pages of notes.
Well, I can't wait to read that. But you mentioned earlier, sort of finally really, Andrew, you mentioned earlier that you see this as a Me Too moment for the royal family. I think what they need to take on board is their traditional impulse to secrecy. They are still a very untransparent organisation. We don't know very much about their money. We know very little about the way they operate. And over the years, over the centuries, I guess, but certainly modern history, their impulse has always been to sort of fold in and to keep their own secrets. Now, they're going to have to, I would suggest, adapt to a more transparent way of life, don't you think?
Well, I've been calling for this for over a decade and been pretty much a lone voice. So I think we have reached a moment where people realize how important it is for proper oversight, proper parliamentary scrutiny, to avoid these things happening in the past. I mean, this thing only flourished because there was no proper transparency. And I think if they are to continue to have respect and trust from the British public in this contract that we have for their privileges, they do need to be more open about finances, archives, and all sorts of things.
And, if this goes wrong, if events sort of continue in this direction and go badly wrong for the royal family, in terms of, what we were discussing just now, what the king may or may not know, what the rest of the royal family may or may not know, I mean, this could be almost existential. I mean, people have been talking about, if the king's involvement is, shall we say, deeper than we have been led to believe, if his knowledge of what Andrew was up to is more than we have been led to believe, I mean, this could end up being a kind of abdication crisis, couldn't it?
Well, we need to see how public opinion responds to what's happening. May be satisfied by the fact that Andrew is facing justice. But you and I have discussed the fact that if Charles is compromised, then clearly there needs to be a clean sweep, and someone else needs to take his place, and they can hide behind his illness and all sorts of things. But I don't think we've quite reached that stage. I think the dramatic events of today, I think, have persuaded a lot of people that the royal family are taking this seriously. And I suppose, things may have happened in the past, but may be convenient just to forget about that.
I agree with you. I think that this has taken the pressure off. Thank God the police have done it. Final question. You're a royal expert. People have said, forget the abdication crisis for Edward VIII. Never mind the crisis that beset the royal family after Diana died in 1998, when they seriously misjudged the mood of the public and the Queen basically had to apologise. That this is developing into the worst royal crisis of modern history.
Yes, I'd second that. I think, and I've said that for a long time, far more important than the abdication. So this is, as you say, it could lead to the end of one reign, possibly.
Well, listen, Andrew, it's been a privilege to talk to you over the months because I am still lost in admiration for your book. And thank you for coming on, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Thank you very much. Andrew Lowney there, the author of Entitled, The Decline and Fall of the House of York. Let me know what you think. I think that the Queen does need, the King does need to be spoken to. As I say, I'm just sort of, people go, oh, you can't possibly interview the King. Well, what did he know? I mean, I'm sure stories will be one of utter incidents, but innocence, but what did he know? He's got to be talked to by the police. What do you think about that? 03444991000. Talking to the police, we'll talk to a former Met Police detective, Mike Neville, about the cop side of all of this when we come back, so stay tuned.
Why have the progressive left ignored these black islanders?
Because they are the wrong kind of black islanders. They're very loyal to the crown. Misley, as you showed, I think on your program yesterday, lands on the islands and says, "God save the king." I mean, that I think just triggers a few of these human rights lawyer types. It fills them with ideas of imperial domination and all that. I mean, the reality is the only places still under the British Crown are the places that did not want to be pushed out.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Getting quite a lot of texts. It's quite amusing from people who are sort of supporting Andrew. I guess they probably feel, you know, a typical British reaction, isn't it? When you feel that somebody is, you know, everyone's picking on someone, as in everyone's down on Andrew. It's typical British people. They come to, no, leave him alone, leave him alone. I like the British for that, but he's not going to get left alone, folks. Let's go. Let's talk about the police side of this operation. What will be going on now, and what happened this morning with former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Hello, Mike.
Yes, hello, Kevin.
Now, we saw that raid this morning, for that's what it was. You pointed out to me, interestingly, I guess this is standard procedure, but the cops not only descended on his front door, but also his back door to make sure that he didn't do a runner. I mean, I'm sure he wouldn't have done that, but just to think about that is just bizarre, isn't it?
I agree. I can't imagine Andrew jumping over the back fences, but it did strike me as amusing when I read it in the Telegraph about the cars that go in front and back. Yeah.
Now, when they arrived, I mean, presumably they wouldn't have called him first. What would have happened? You know, I mean, obviously, you knock on most people's doors, they might answer themselves, but he does have a staff there, paid for by his brother, the King. But once they got in there and he came to see them, what would they have said?
Well, as I understand it, so it would have been somebody like myself when I would, before I retired, a DCI or a detective superintendent in such a sensitive case. They would have asked to see him. They would have told him straight away he was under arrest. He would have been cautioned, and then he would have been asked to reveal where any items that they're looking for were situated. So I would imagine that would be paper files, but more important in this age, digital devices, phones, laptops, tablets, and be asked to be directed to those so they could be searched for and seized.
So their first words to him would have been, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, I'm arresting you on suspicion of misconduct in a public office. That's right. You do not have to say anything, but anything you say may be taken down and used in evidence against you. He would have got that, yeah?
Absolutely, would have been cautioned, and there would have been. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody was actually recording this and filming it, because in sensitive cases it makes sure that there's no denial of what actually happened or where anything was found.
And then taken to a police station where he will be currently, I would imagine, where he will have today been interviewed under caution.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know this crime of misconduct in public office is quite sometimes difficult to solve. It's a very old crime from about 1745, a common law offence. I've no doubts that the police have liaised with the Crown Prosecution Service. They'll have a list of preliminary questions to ask him. So he'll be interviewed most likely in the presence of a very eminent lawyer. And then after the interview, after they've seized all the items, got the information that they can of him, then he'll be bailed for further inquiries, because, of course, searching computers and tablets is not a thing you do in a day, is it? This is going to take a number of weeks to sift through all the information.
Indeed. Now let's talk about the Royal Protection Squad, because they're in the firing line today. Because, you know, as a member of the royal family, a leading member of the royal family, he had a squad of detectives protecting him, and they're supposed to go, or almost be with him 24/7, every single hour of every single day, everywhere he goes. He's protected by these Scotland Yard detectives. They would have flown, would they not, to Payout Island, St James's Island, when he went there, so they will have gone there. They'd have gone allegedly everywhere that he went, although he did have a terrible reputation among the Royal Protection Squad. He thought it was a game, you know, it was good fun to give them the slip and go off on his own. But that notwithstanding, questions are being asked of the Royal Protection Squad. What did they know? What did they see? If they went to Payout Island, it's a fair assumption that they saw, what I would call law breaking.
Yeah, it's tragic, isn't it? I mean, I've got a good friend who was, worked with Prince Andrew and just described him as terribly arrogant, as you say, would just jump in his car and drive off and not tell him where he's going. So it wouldn't be surprising if he actually said to him, "I'm going to this island and you'll stay behind and wait for me." So we don't know that. But my key consideration is, Kevin, is when we've spoken before, of course, the police are often happy to arrest the plebs and not deal with the real villain. At least now we can see that the real villain is alleged villain has been arrested, and the police can make their inquiries. But somebody's got to take account for this, because there would have been the senior officers in charge of those protection officers who must have been briefed on what was going on. And if officers have highlighted concerns and it's all been swept under the carpet, then somebody's got to be held to account.
And the scale of this investigation, I was just talking to the author Andrew Lowney, the royal author, it'll be vast, won't it? I mean, they need to talk to, we're going back, I mean, it's an historical investigation for a start. We're talking about the noughties. When the king advised against this, but the Queen wanted to get her second son a job. Went to Tony Blair, the then Prime Minister, said, "Got anything for him?" So they invented this role of a travelling trade envoy. So he then went round the world at taxpayers' expense, allegedly abusing that position and selling secrets, allegedly to financier associates of his, especially his pedo pal, Jeffrey Epstein, the American billionaire. So the officials, all the government officials, the civil servants, the royal officials who went on these trade envoy trips with Andrew, they'll have to be talked to. I would have thought Princess Bee went on several of these trips with him to China and the Middle East. She'll have to be talked to, won't she? And presumably Sarah Ferguson as well, if she ever rematerialises. We're not sure where she is. What did she know about her husband's activities? All these people will have to be drawn into this massive investigation, won't they?
Well, it is enormous, as you say, and it's not just the people we know went. It's when you look at their phones and tablets and you see the message, WhatsApp and other types of messages. Who else has been sent emails? This is not just a national thing. This is international, isn't it? Who around the world has received these emails? Who's received messages? Who's drawn into this web? It's an enormous inquiry, but I have to say, well done to Thames Valley Police. Assistant Chief Constable Wright seems to have got a grip of this, but they're in it. They must be in it for the long haul, because this is not a week's worth of investigation. This is a long time.
And the last point we need to consider, Mike, is this. We hear that now no fewer than 9 police forces are investigating the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as he is now, to probe his alleged involvement in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking racket. Gordon Brown, former Prime Minister, no less, said that there are at least 90 flights of Epstein's notorious Lolita Express, his private jet, flying into Britain across the Atlantic from America, allegedly with Epstein's girls on board, his victims, some of whom were transported directly to Buckingham Palace, again, allegedly, to be shown or taken to Andrew for a night of fun and frivolity. So, the charge or the allegation that he had a central role in a sex trafficking operation, that could be extremely serious. So he's got that to worry about. Again, no arrest on that and no charge. He's always denied any involvement in any of that. But 9 police forces are investigating those flights and his role in those flights. He's got a lot more than what's happening today to worry about, hasn't he?
Well, let's hope the police coordinate this. We don't need 9 police forces investigating this. Let's hope it's similar to something like that. You had the things like the Hillsborough inquiry. They put several police forces under the command of one senior officer, and then they can deal with it. Otherwise, because let's remember, every officer who's dealing with this is not dealing with the robberies, burglaries, rapes, and thefts that occur every day. So let's hope there's some coordination of those 9. There's one special unit set up to investigate this, because, as I've said, this is not a short-term inquiry. Let's have the truth of it. Albeit, I would say that the offence of misconduct in public office, if it's true, and we don't, you know, these are all allegations that emails were sent, then that's a very simple matter in my view.
Yeah, I mean, the Epstein files appear to show that he sent these, passed on these emails, but of course you have to check the veracity of the copies of the emails that are in the Epstein files. So a lot of work still to do, but an extraordinary day, extraordinary events. Mike, good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Mike Neville there, former Met Police detective. We're going to come off the royal story next, and we are going to talk about, well, Keir Starmer has overruled advice yet again to make a key appointment. This one is Dame Antonia Romeo, who will now be the first ever female cabinet secretary. This is pretty controversial because she comes with a lot of baggage. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Change of pace, change of tone. Let's talk about Keir Starmer. About 15 months ago, something like that, he was advised not to appoint a guy called Sir Chris Wormold to the key position of Cabinet Secretary. That makes him the most powerful civil servant, the chief top civil servant in the country. He was advised, oh, this guy was in charge, with Permanent Secretary at Housing, didn't do a very good job, not very charismatic. You don't want to give him the job. But he overruled that advice and gave him the job. And we all know what Keir Starmer's like when he's given advice about key roles. You know what he did in America. He completely ignored, overruled advice from our intelligence services and others that Peter Mandelson was the last man in the world he should appoint to be our ambassador to the United States of America in Washington. He ignored it. And the rest of that, as we know, is history. We know what happened there. Well, he's done it again. He has appointed Dame Antonia Romeo against advice because she comes with a lot of baggage. Let's talk to political commentator Benedict Spence. Welcome, Benedict.
Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. Now, this story is strange and complicated, but Antonia Romeo, or Dame Antonia Romeo, when she was New York consul, she works for the Foreign Office, or did work for the Foreign Office. She went over to be New York consul. She was accused there and was investigated for alleged bullying of staff, of harassing staff, and also for expenses abuses. At one point, she apparently jumped on a jet to fly to London so she could attend the BAFTAs and rub shoulders with the rich and famous. She's got a bit of a reputation for liking to be in glittering circles. And then she flew back and charged that to expenses. Now, she was exonerated, cleared of all those allegations after investigations. Some critics say, well, those investigations were pretty much swept under the carpet. They were not properly or fully conducted. Lord Simon MacDonald, who used to be her boss. He was the permanent undersecretary at the Foreign Office, used to be her boss. He went on to telly last week to essentially say, don't give this woman the job. He said, you know, you need to do more due diligence here. I'm offering my services to the vetting process, but he was ignored. So once again, Starmer has been advised against a key appointment and he's ignored that advice. Will this guy ever learn?
Will he ever learn? No, I think we all know that the answer is he's as obstinate as a rock. I don't think he's ever going to change his opinion. If only he had slightly more opinions, at least that would be entertaining. But you know, we've got another situation where a sort of a career civil servant is being pushed. Sort of regardless of performance, if we're honest, it's just been decided that this is the woman for the job. And you note, admittedly more subdued than normal, but there has been a lot of that talk about, oh, it's the first woman in this role and therefore it's something to be celebrated. And, you know, that kind of tells you everything you need to know actually about how serious this person's credentials may or may not be. Now, I'm prepared to actually give her some slack when it comes to things like allegations of bullying. Because, of course, I think you might remember when Priti Patel became Home Secretary and went into the Home Office to try and sort it out, and she was accused of bullying. And you can never tell when it comes to allegations of bullying by civil servants. Is it because it's a nasty piece of work, the individual, or is it because they're being asked to do their jobs and turn up and that sort of thing? It's always it's the toss of a coin, and we're not sure. But what I would say about Antonia Romeo is, on her watch, there was a real sort of pushing and doubling down of a lot of the sort of agendas that we've seen over the last couple of years, trans identity, DEI, all of that sort of thing. This is somebody who, flew the trans flag above the Department for International Trade, I think, would send out emails at sort of all times of the day, weeks on weeks, talking about diversity initiatives. This is not somebody who necessarily you sit back and you look at and say, this is a person who's only focused on improving the output of their departments. This is somebody who clearly has ideological agendas. That's not the sort of thing that you should have at any level of the civil service, let alone somebody right at the very top.
Yeah, the thing is, you think that Starmer would have learned that with these key positions, if there's a scintilla of doubt about the nominee, just don't take the risk. And you certainly might have thought that he would have learned that lesson after Peter Mandelson. I mean, the appointment of Peter Mandelson was quite remarkable considering the kind of avalanche of information that he was given or advice that he was given. Don't give the job to this guy. I mean, most members of the public said, hang on a second, he's been fired twice from the cabinet. He's never been far away from scandal, 3 major scandals, and you're going to give him the job? That's ridiculous. But as I say, he's got form. Because 15 months or so, when Sir Chris Warmold became the Cabinet Secretary, Starmer was advised against giving him the job. And yet he overruled that advice and gave him the job. And here he is again, being publicly advised not to give Antonia Romeo the job by her former boss at the Foreign Office, Simon MacDonald, now Lord MacDonald, and he's ignored that advice. As I say, he can't see trouble when it's coming around the corner, can he? If this goes slightly wrong with her, again, he will get an absolute bucket poured all over him. What is wrong with our Prime Minister?
I think he takes the Churchill expression of "if you find yourself in hell, keep going" a little too literally. It's interesting, isn't it? Because we once upon a time, I don't know if you remember this, Kevin, but we had a Prime Minister by the name of I think it was Boris Johnson.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
And his problem was that he would change his opinions and do absolutely anything that anybody else told him as long as he thought it would make him loved. He didn't really care what the consequences were as long as it made him popular. Keir Starmer is sort of the exact opposite. He will literally run headfirst into a wall if he thinks it's the right idea, and everyone else be damned whether or not they're telling him it's a popular or smart thing to do. He is convinced steadfastly that he is right, and I think that he takes it almost as a challenge to his authority when anybody sort of taps him on the shoulder and says, Prime Minister, are you sure about this? It might not go well. He actually, I think, sees that as an affront, given that he is the man at the top. I think he's very hierarchical, very rigid, and I think he's not really able to think beyond the parameters of the worldview that he has, which is sort of insane, given that he was supposed to be a hotshot lawyer. I think this says more about the direction actually that the legal profession has gone in. It's no longer something that rewards creative thinkers, it rewards procedure. And I think we see that now in our politics very much with Keir Starmer.
Yeah, there are reports that for meetings in 10 Downing Street in the Cabinet Office, that his only obsession is whether or not the meetings start bang on time, punctuality, and the dress code. Are people dressed properly? That is probably a window into the mind of Keir Starmer. You're right. I mean, President Trump yesterday, I think, taking the mickey out of him, saying you've got to stand up against wokeism, over the Chagos giveaway. And as I said on Twitter, but Donald, he says you've got to stand up against the face of wokeism. And I said on Twitter, but Donald, Keir Starmer is the face of wokeism, and, desperate to say, I'm the first ever Chancellor, the female Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Well, you'd have thought he might have learnt something from that. I think he's overly keen to say, I've appointed the first ever female cabinet secretary. Now, I don't doubt, one would hope, Antonia does a very, very good job. But you fear that, her gender, her sex, is probably a part of the appointment, a disproportionate reason for appointing her, as opposed to her actual talents.
Yeah, I think that certainly plays a part, and her trendy, acceptable ideological views on things surrounding things like diversity and various other progressive hot topics. These things matter to those sorts of people who are at the top of the circus, so to speak, and have yet to work out that the world around them has changed. We're seeing that actually reflected in what's going on with the Chagos Islands, and the British government saying, well, we couldn't possibly let the US use that base because it might break international law for a strike on Iran. Whilst the rest of the world is literally sat there going, what on earth is wrong with these people? Do they not understand that the game has changed? In the UK, once upon a time, our civil service was pretty fluid, pretty dynamic, and it was able to adapt. And that was ultimately how the empire was run. Nowadays, it is very overstaffed, very overbloated. You only get ahead if you have the right ideals, not ideas, ideals. And that is exactly, I think, what we're getting with somebody like Antonia Romeo. I must say, I don't think it's going to change until there is institutional change at the top of the civil service itself. For as long as these people are promoted not on merit, but on ideology, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and their backgrounds. Of course, Keir Starmer recently going, my cabinet is a really working class cabinet, salt of the earth administration. Antonia Romeo, Dame Antonia Romeo, went to Westminster Private School, Brasenose College, Oxford, Columbia University, New York, and the London School of Economics. Salt of the earth, salt of the earth. Benedict, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Benedict Spence, their political commentator. Another balls up by Keir Starmer in terms of a key appointment, possibly in the offing there. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. When we come back, we'll have a look. We'll put the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, on the couch, the psychologist's couch, and try to find out what kind of a guy he is, how he will be reacting to the adversity he finds himself in today. That next. Stick around.
Why have the progressive left ignored these black islanders?
Because they are the wrong kind of Black Islanders. They're very loyal to the crown. You know, Misley, as you showed, I think on your program yesterday, lands on the islands and says, "God save the king." I mean, that I think just triggers a few of these human rights lawyer types. It fills them with ideas of imperial domination and all that. I mean, the reality is the only places still under the British Crown are the places that did not want to be pushed out.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as we speak. I don't know if he's been released yet, but I don't think so. He'll be in a police office room somewhere being interviewed by detectives with a view to the fact he is under investigation for allegedly misbehaving in public office, malfeasance, misconduct in public office when he was a trade envoy for this country in the early noughties. But this must be an extraordinary experience for a man, who is the King's brother, spent his entire life, people bowing and scraping to him, he's still eighth in line to the throne. So suddenly, he's had his collar felt. Let's find out, see if we can have a look into what kind of a man and what kind of reaction he'll be having today. Let's have a chat with psychologist Dr. David Holmes. Welcome, David.
Hi there.
Well, first of all, what will it be like? What would it be, in your view, like to be a person like the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, his whole life, at the top of the social scale, living in palaces, people doffing their caps, everything done for him, servants, very privileged life, gilded palace existence. He's sitting in a police room now being interviewed by detectives. This morning they swooped on his house, front door and back door, to make sure he didn't run out. They treated him like any other common or garden suspect. They read him his rights. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, you are under arrest on suspicion of misconduct in a public office. Come with us. You do not have to say anything, etc., etc. What would that be like for a person like that? That must be a really shocking experience.
It's got to be a little bit of a shock to him. This is probably the first time he's been thrown into a room with a hard bench, nothing else. Really, nothing else. That's it. Bit of a window which is barred, and that's it. And a door that is impenetrable and has a little spy hole. He's had a very privileged adulthood and possibly his teens. However, his early childhood may have been closer to the model, because I would imagine he would have been brought up with fair strictures as to what he can and can't do, particularly in public. But having that royal tag, having that sort of invulnerability when it comes to the strictures of society, I think he may have played his cards a little bit too wide and have actually been there when it's been not appropriate. What we don't know about him is possibly the background of other activities that may not be entirely acceptable, and certainly probably wouldn't be acceptable to the rest of his family. You could say that Charles was a fairly upright chap and pretty much a law-abiding chap. He seems to have a strong moral sense. Perhaps, unlike his father, who may have perhaps had more of an influence on Andrew in terms of his flippancy when it comes to treating others as equals.
Although I think Philip was never condescending or rude or arrogant towards staff and servants. Andrew has a terrible reputation for that. Do you think, I mean, you know, Royal Protection detectives who worked with him, they just said he was arrogant, rude, impossible. Do you think that that kind of character might have emanated from the fact that he was well known to be his mother, the Queen's favourite son? I mean, is what you can see of his personality, is that classic of the spoilt brat?
It could be, you know, a primary example. Basically, the spoilt brat has this sensation that whatever they do, it will be okay, and it will be all right, and it will be seen by others as being okay and all right, particularly the parents, of course. That sense of privilege is often given to the younger child in a family, and inadvertently often by the parents, but it has a profound effect over the years, and the relations with their siblings can become quite competitive, and sometimes you could be the totally irresponsible child who sees no wrong in what they do whatsoever.
No, that's interesting, because that kind of gels with what we think Andrew is like, and it is well known that him and Charles, have never really got on. They have been at loggerheads their entire life. What about his sense of entitlement, and could it be, you know, I mean, he's well known not to be, shall we say, the sharpest pin in the pack. He's not particularly intellectual. Do you think it's because he's not clever enough to understand that he's been born into a very, very unusual position, and you know, he's not bright enough not to have abused that? Because I think he stands accused of regularly abusing his position as a kind of entitlement, as you said, a feeling he can do no wrong, that he's above the law, and an arrogance both to staff and workers and officials that he's shown all his life. Is that because he's just a bit dim, really, and doesn't really understand how to negotiate life as a member of the royal family?
No, I think he's got enough insight to realise that he's a royal and is above others, but I think he just kind of accepts it as his privilege, that it's inherent in him. He doesn't get the idea that he's playing a role. Charles gets the idea very carefully, and he plays the role of the king, and he plays it as it should be played. However, Andrew seems to want to make his own little pattern of behaviours, which he sees as absolutely okay, no matter what he does. It's his role, it's his privilege to do that. Yeah. Whereas most people in his position have this thrust upon them, that this kind of massive
I'll tell you what, David, he's probably having a rethink as we speak about that. David, really good to talk to you. Dr. David Holmes there, psychologist on the psychological state of Prince Andrew. Emma Trimble next, stay tuned.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now let's go through some of the big stories of the day. In a little while, by the way, in about 25 minutes or so, I will be talking to Kinsey Schofield, our royal guru over on the West Coast, get her take on what's happened to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Also, I'll be talking to a rape gang survivor, Ellie Reynolds, about growing concern that there's too much rape gang activity continuing all over the country, especially here in London. And we'll get the latest on the sports scene from Head of Sport of the Sun, Sean Custis. So all that's still to come. Get your phone calls in. Should the King be interviewed? What do you think should happen going forward in terms of the Royals? 03444991000. Let me know about the Chagos Islands. We'll talk about that in just a little while. But President Trump last night suddenly he keeps flip-flopping, but he suddenly posted this statement on social media saying, "Oh, they're giving away the Chagos is madness and it's woke and we shouldn't do it." Well, we have a contract, a treaty rather, that says that we're not allowed to give away the Chagos Islands without the approval of America. So if he's genuinely against it, then I'm not sure if this can go on. Let's go over to my first guest for this hour. She's political commentator, writer and broadcaster Emma Trimble. Hi, Emma.
Good to be with you, Kevin.
Hi, Emma. How are you doing? Now, first of all, let me get your take on, some of the most extraordinary scenes I've ever seen today. The police raiding the house of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and arresting him. He'll currently be sitting in some grim police office at the moment, being interviewed by detectives under suspicion of misconduct in a public office. He hasn't been charged, but extraordinary, don't you think?
Definitely been quite the news day, hasn't it, Kevin? I don't think, I get the sense at least that perhaps, I almost said Prince Andrew there, of course he's no longer, he's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, but I get the sense that Andrew maybe thought that he was impervious to this kind of action against him. I think he seems to have been quite detached from reality. So these allegations aren't relating to anything sexual in nature. It's to do with, as you said, misconduct in office when he was the UK's trade envoy. It looks as if he might have sent some confidential information to Epstein.
Allegedly, must say that, yeah.
It looks as if.
Yeah.
This is an absolutely huge story. It just goes to show that, as has been the case in this country when you compare us to other countries in Europe, that the monarchy, even the king himself, is not above the law here. And this is a huge issue. You asked there in your introduction about whether or not maybe the king should be questioned. I think that it's something that is possibly on the cards. But the royal family, both Charles and William and Kate, seem to have done everything they can to distance themselves from him. But of course, this is a huge international story, and it's something that it seems that the Americans are particularly interested in. Of course, you have a lot of royal watchers in the United States that pay attention to absolutely everything that happens with the royal family here. But this is a story of monumental proportions.
Just look at the King's statement that he issued around about midday today. It's interesting that he doesn't use the word brother. He says, "I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter." I think he's right. You can't cut across a police investigation. But he offered his full cooperation to this probe before. As I say, two things interest me about this statement. One, he doesn't use the word brother, my brother. And in terms of our full and wholehearted support and cooperation with the police, I think the police have got to sit down with the king and say, what did you know?
Well, I think it's not just about what did the king know, it's also about staffers in the palace. So particularly in some of the stuff that has been released in the Epstein files, I've noticed other commentators, people online, talking about the fact that he's alleged to have brought people into the palace who perhaps shouldn't have been there. It looks as if maybe prostitutes were brought into Buckingham Palace, not necessarily with the knowledge of the rest of the royal family. But presumably,
I wouldn't have thought so. One would hope not.
But presumably, if this has occurred, there will be people on the staff in the palace who were maybe aware of this. I mean, there is a lot of stuff here that I think the British public are going to want the police to look into. They're going to want full transparency. But at the same time, I think that we shouldn't have, as you have very rightly pointed out, Kevin, this is all alleged. But we also shouldn't have guilt by association with the king and the royal family. I think they are quite rightly doing everything they can to protect the monarchy and the institution of the monarchy's reputation from the damage that this could potentially cause. Because this isn't, as I say, this isn't an allegation of sexual nature. This is effectively an allegation of corruption in public office of misconduct. And so I think that quite rightly, I imagine that the king and the rest of the royal family will be very upset by this on a personal level. But they also have to think about their position as the caretakers of the institution of the monarchy, and I think they're quite rightly doing everything they can to distance themselves.
Yeah, but 9 police forces also investigating allegations that he was involved in Jeffrey Epstein's sordid sex trafficking operation, and again, he's always denied any wrongdoing in that respect. But he may get his collar felt about that as well. So it's all going badly wrong for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor on his birthday. Let's move on. The Chagos Islands. Last night I was on air, I was just about to come off air, and President Trump, who seems to flip-flop on this from one day to the next, suddenly posted on social media, he's mad to give away the Chagos Islands, we won't allow it, blah, 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 I need that airstrip and you can't lease off this country. So he actually very, very strongly expressed his disapproval. If you're watching, there's the statement, his disapproval, ending with, do not give away Diego Garcia, the airstrip, the military airstrip on those Indian Ocean islands that are very strategic, where the West, Britain and America use that base to launch patrols to observe on the Middle East and the Far East, China, etc. So very, very strategic. Well, the president basically, we've got a treaty that says we're not allowed to give these islands away unless we have the approval of America. This social media post by the president indicates we do not have the approval, but apparently, despite the president saying no, Starmer will defy Trump over the Chagos deal and continue with his strange obsession to give away these islands to China's best friend, Mauritius. I wish that we could stop it, but the Prime Minister seems absolutely foursquare, determined to give away these islands. Why doesn't he just stop it? I mean, he doesn't have to do this, does he?
He doesn't. He doesn't have to do this. He doesn't have to listen to these international lawyers who are trying to compel this decision, which I think is frankly treacherous. And I really hope that Donald Trump consistently holds the line on this one, because as you say, there is this treaty with the United States that is supposed to guarantee both the US and the UK's use for military purposes. One of the issues here, or the big issue, is that, of course, Mauritius is closely allied to China. And if we do lease it off of them, there is the chance that if we're going to use that base for some kind of military operation, we would need to inform Mauritius, who could then go and inform the Chinese. So this is really an act of treachery when it comes to our national security. And you have the government talking about how it is so important for us to lease this base back because it's so important for national security. They recognise that fact, that we are handing this over just because some international lawyers have said so, at the cost of 35 billion to the taxpayer. It's going to cost us 165 million in the first 3 years. This is absolutely no good for the UK, no good for the West, no good for the United States. There is no good reason for Keir Starmer to be digging his heels in and insisting on handing over Diego Garcia. It's absurd. And also the other aspect of this is that, of course, leftists and the Labour Party have made the argument that this is also about effectively decolonisation. They're handing this back to Mauritius because we have no right to hold it in the first place. But of course, the Chagosians, who have just arrived on the shores of Chagos after having been expelled from their own island, have just gone back and have been evicted by the Indian Ocean Territory Police. They've kicked them off of the island. They've threatened them with arrest, and it's very interesting to see that they can do that with Chagosians landing on the Chagos Islands, but can't seem to be so robust when it comes to small boats arriving here in the UK. But it's an absurd argument. The Chagosians want Chagos to remain British. They're British. They would like to be able to return to their islands. The idea that we should be compelled to hand this over to Mauritius at the expense of our national security is obscene.
Yeah, I had the Labour MP, the veteran Labour MP Graham Stringer on, who said, you know, you've got Keir Starmer, human rights lawyer. You've got the Attorney General, Richard Hermer, human rights lawyer. You've got their great friend, the KC Philippe Sands, who's been working for Mauritius to give away or to get the Chagos for them from Britain. He's British. He apparently has got a share of an £8,300,000 pot for his work for a foreign country. And these three people, particularly the Prime Minister and the Attorney General, they seem to believe that, you know, international law is much more important than the interests of Great Britain, the welfare of this nation, the security of this nation. This is a very strategic piece of territory in the middle of the Indian Ocean, very strategic. But to our interest, the welfare of Britain, to them, is not as important as the vague diktats of international law, which, as everyone knows, you can either listen to or you can ignore. They could ignore it, but they think international law is more important than the interests of Britain. And that's the bloody Prime Minister of this country. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the most charitable interpretation is that it is dangerous naivety. We saw this when Trump was talking about the whole situation around Greenland and the strategic importance of Greenland to the United States and to the West more broadly. You had all of these people screaming about the rules-based international order, but you can't secure that rules-based international order with a weak military, for example, without being willing to project your power around the world. The reality is that our enemies in Russia and China don't give two hoots about the rules-based international order. They don't care about international law. They just simply ignore it. And so all it is really is hamstringing the West from being able to defend itself. And I mean, even as I mentioned, you know, the Chagosians, they are desperately trying to assert their right to their land. And you would think that that the Labour Party would be particularly amenable to listening to a people who were saying, do the right thing, let Chagos be British and let us return to the island that we were kicked off of.
Yeah,
and they refused to do it. And so you would think that someone like Keir Starmer, who is an international lawyer who conveniently seemed to not notice this treaty that we had with the United States in the first place, you would think that Keir Starmer, of all people, would be wanting to stand up for the Chagosian people. But no, he would rather hand it over to an ally of China. And as you said with Lord Hermer, it just fits the bill. It's a pattern of behaviour. They will always side with the West's enemies over the rights and the freedoms and the safety of the British public.
Indeed. Let's move on and talk about the migrant crisis. New research by the Centre for Migration Control has revealed that households across Britain containing at least one unemployed foreign national received £10.6 billion in universal credit between January 2024 and June 2025. £15.1 billion was paid out in the same time span in universal credit to households where there was at least one resident who was a foreign national. And £6.95 billion went to, for the calendar year, 2024 went to households, again, with at least one foreign national. So this adds to this picture that these people, asylum seekers, migrants, some of them legal, some of them illegal, come into this country and basically massively adding to our welfare bill. Our welfare bill is obscene enough as it is, but these people are just arriving and we're giving them billions of pounds. There's something wrong there, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely nuts, but are we surprised? I think we all already know that we're being completely taken for a ride. And it is obscene that the taxes are going up for people across the board. We're all absolutely drowning in taxes. Businesses are suffering so much that they can't employ people. We're being asked to suffer even though the cost of living is going up. People are genuinely struggling to get by. And yet we're being asked to foot the bill for all of these people who are coming here in some cases illegally. I mean, that's a separate issue, but we're being asked really to be the piggy bank of the world. So, I mean, also in the statistics, I've got this in front of me here. So apparently of the 28.6 million households in Britain, each of those households has to fork out £332 in order to foot this bill that you mentioned there of the 9.5 billion. And apparently this is equivalent to the starting salaries of, wait for it, 225,000 metropolitan police officers.
Are there that many?
It's absolutely absurd. The things that we could be spending that money on. I mean, we are being taxed in order to subsidize the rest of the world. It's wrong. People shouldn't just be entitled to come here and then just become dependent on the British state. This is not free money. This is our money.
It's just, it is extremely bizarre almost, but it's also a scandal. Emma, fantastic to talk to you. Emma Trimble there, writer, broadcaster, political commentator. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to go live to Sandringham and find out from our reporter what's happening up there, and then talk to our royal guru over on the west coast of America, Kinsey Schofield, find out what her take is on the extraordinary events that have been unfolding all day after the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the King's brother. So all of that next. Stay tuned.
Why have the progressive left ignored these Black Islanders?
Because they are the wrong kind of Black Islanders. They're very loyal to the Crown. Misley, as you showed, I think on your programme yesterday, lands on the islands and says, "God save the King." I mean, that I think just triggers a few of these human rights lawyer types. It fills them with ideas of imperial domination and all that. I mean, the reality is the only places still under the British Crown are the places that did not want to be pushed out.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Last night I interviewed Rupert Lowe about his new party, Restore Britain, and the fight on the right, really. So the right wing, political right wing, is fractured. You've got Reform UK, you've got Advance UK, Ben Habib's party, and now Restore Britain, Rupert Lowe's party. I spoke to Rupert. He says that yesterday alone they had 70,000 people queuing up to join that new party. So let me know what you think about the fight on the right, the fractured political scene that we seem to be involved in right now. 0344 499 1000. Do you support Rupert Lowe's new party? I mean, they're in favour of mass deportation. They want a very hard line on migrants, the migrant crisis. So they're right of the Reform UK. Do you support Advance UK, also right of Reform UK? Or do you think the Reform UK should be left alone to fight the forces of Labour and not be fractured by Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib and all the others? 0344 499 1000. Right, we're going to talk to Kinsey Schofield, our royal expert over in America, in just a second. But first, let's go up to Sandringham to talk to our reporter from The Sun, Thomas Godfrey. Hi, Thomas. Well, usually when the cameras go up to exactly where you are, it's on Christmas Day, isn't it, when the royal family all file out of church, having been, for a December the 21st religious service, and all the royals are there. Very different atmosphere today. 8 a.m, the coppers raided Andrew's new home on the Sandringham estate. Must be a strange atmosphere up there. What's the sort of mood?
Was actually in police custody, arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office, a very serious offence and also a very complex offence. You'll remember this stems from allegations, which he hasn't actually responded to yet, but allegations that he forwarded sensitive government material to the convicted paedophile and his friend Jeffrey Epstein. Documents released in the latest tranche of files put out by the US Justice Department last month, appearing to show those emails, and that is what the police want to talk to him about today. A very, very strange atmosphere up at Sandringham, where for the first time in 400 years or so, a member of the royal family has been arrested.
And the locals around Sandringham, I don't know if you've spoken to many of them, but it's well documented that they've never been very keen on the idea of Prince, or the former Prince Andrew, living there. So they must be suffering mixed emotions today. They don't want him to be there at all, and probably their suspicions or their fears are confirmed that they got the cops raiding the place. Not very salubrious for a nice rural neighbourhood like that.
No, you're right, and this is actually a part of the country which generally is very supportive of the royal family. We know King Charles comes up here often, the late Queen spent a lot of time up here, and it is the estate, as you mentioned, where the royal family come to celebrate Christmas, and I'm sure this is not what the people of this part of the country would want their village, their area, and the Sandringham estate to be associated with. I've managed to have a chat with a couple of people walking by, and actually you'll remember there are people in Windsor as well, where Andrew lived until only a few weeks ago at Royal Lodge, who didn't want him here, and he's not massively wanted up in this part of the world either. So there's not a great deal of love for him anywhere he goes. We know the King took very sort of action eventually to remove the titles last year, and then also to evict him from the sprawling Royal Lodge, which was his marital home, which he had been living in right up until earlier this year. He was moved here to Marsh Farm with the idea that he could almost be out of sight and out of mind. But it was only a 3-hour drive or so for the police this morning to come and arrest him. So clearly still very much in the public eye, and this story has quite a lot of distance left to run, even if this is the start of what could be a very long criminal process.
It's extraordinary times, Thomas, extraordinary times, and I have a suspicion that this story might be on the front page of your fine newspaper tomorrow. I can't wait to see it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thomas Godfrey there, reporter for The Sun. Let's go over to the west coast of America and talk to the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
What a nightmare birthday for former Prince Andrew, Mountbatten Windsor.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. I was talking to Andrew Lowney earlier, and I've talked to other people about this extraordinary story. One of the most remarkable stories of my long and checkered career. Can't remember anything bigger than this. The King's brother has been arrested. He is currently in custody, being interviewed by police on charges of misconduct in a public office relating to when he was the trade envoy in the noughties. No charges yet, important to stress that. But I mean, that it should come to this, Kinsey. I mean, you're a seasoned royal reporter, royal watcher. I mean, this isn't unexpected, but to see it actually happen, it's just shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for years, the scandal surrounding Andrew was treated as a royal disgrace. Tonight, it has become a criminal crisis. With him now under arrest and in custody, investigators are examining whether his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein involved not just damaging associations, but the possible disclosure of sensitive government information linked to his official role abroad. Not likely what we ever assumed he would be investigated for, because we've heard whispers of much more vulgar behavior over the last few years, and accusations and payouts to Virginia Giuffre. This is no longer about bad judgment, catastrophic interviews, or just palace embarrassment. The focus has shifted to whether a senior royal may have breached the law while representing Britain. And under UK law, as I've heard you say on this program, misconduct in public office carries severe legal consequences. Authorities must now decide whether the evidence warrants full criminal charges. And if prosecutors move forward, the implications are extraordinary. What began as a royal scandal would become one of the most serious constitutional and legal threats the modern monarchy has faced. But I will say, seeing King Charles sitting front row at New York Fashion Week while the you-know-what is hitting the fan, I'm a little tickled by that. I mean,
is that where he is today? Is that where he is?
He's there right now.
You're kidding.
I didn't realize that.
Kidding. He's at New York Fashion Week watching
the London Fashion Week. I apologize.
The London Fashion. I was going to say,
London Fashion Week.
Well, I suppose, Kinsey, I mean, I share your shock at that. But that said, I suppose the King, it's important for him to deliver the impression that it's business as usual, that he's going about his job, going about.
Well, no, I think he's saying you're on your own, and I love that.
Well, yeah, well, you saw the statement. You saw the statement. I mean, the statement that he issued didn't mention his brother. I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in a public office. He never once mentions that this guy is his brother, but he's made it very clear, and he makes it clear in this statement, which he issued about midday today, that him and the whole family are prepared to cooperate with the police. The police are going to have to interview the King, aren't they?
I mean, I truly don't believe that the King is going to have. I think the King can give them details of Andrew's travels. He can encourage anybody that has any sort of documentation surrounding Andrew during his time as a working royal. I mean, I keep getting asked, should the King abdicate? Does he have to step down? Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was never a working royal under the King Charles reign. I don't believe that this falls on King Charles. But the King probably does have access to flight logs, to, itineraries for when Andrew was working as an envoy and was a working British royal, and he could provide those kind of details to the investigators. But, I think I told you this already. When Tom Bauer and I spoke, Tom Bauer was like, these two people don't like each other. King Charles would not know a lot about what was going on in Andrew's private and personal life because they don't have anything to talk about. They don't have a lot in common. You know, the king was always so focused on this inevitable role, and Randy Andy was clearly always focused on me. What can I get? What can you do for me right here, right now?
Yeah, indeed. But in terms of his relationship with Epstein, not in terms of the potential or the accusation that he basically sold British secrets to his billionaire friend, American friend, Jeffrey Epstein, convicted paedophile. Not apart from that, 9 police forces here in Britain are now investigating allegations that he was involved in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation. The former Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, no less, saying 90 flights came into this country with Epstein's girls on them, and some of them went to the palace to be entertained by the then Prince Andrew. Now,
and after Epstein's arrest, when Andrew should have absolutely knew better, when Andrew should have cut him off.
Yeah, so, you know, he's got, you know, potentially a lot more problem coming down the tracks. But what I think that the king needs to be spoken to about is this $12 million that the royal family got together to hand to Prince Andrew, as he was then, to hand to Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking victim, Virginia Giuffre, who accused Andrew of sexually assaulting her on 3 different continents. Andrew, of course, denies, can't even recall meeting her, allegedly. So he denies those allegations. But one would have to think that the police, at some point, would have to say to the king, well, why was Andrew given that $12 million?
I mean, you know, it was originally reported that the king had anything, like the king was associated with that at all. And I apologize if it's not the correct outlet that I'm quoting, but I believe it was the Telegraph over the weekend that stressed that the king in no way, shape or form was associated with that.
He says he wasn't. Yeah, so the Sun last week, the Sun newspaper, I think it was last week, published the details, or what they said were the details of the breakdown of that money that was given to Andrew to silence Virginia Giuffre. The majority of it was apparently supplied by the late Her Majesty the Queen, the late Queen Elizabeth II. According to the Sun's information, some of that money was supplied by the king. The king said, Prince Charles, as he was then, said that that isn't the case. But I do think the royal family are going to have to talk about this. Why on earth would the royal family hand a woman $12 million not to go to a civil court in New York and reveal the sordid details of what Jeffrey Epstein was up to? Why would they do that? That is a bad look for the royal family.
It is a bad look for the royal family. I think they were just trying to stop the bleeding, and what an expensive cost to try to stop the bleeding. They wanted to focus on the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, which sounds ludicrous to say out loud, that an event was more important than getting to the bottom of the truth and finding out how deep Andrew's ties were with this predator, and if there could be anything else potentially embarrassing out there. And look, it's taken years. It's honestly taken years for all of this to come out. I think that it would be in the king's best interest to address the public in some way, shape, or form. I really do. The London Fashion Week is like the antithesis of that. Like he's saying, like, you look, you're on your own, I'm throwing you under the bus. But I do think that the public would like to hear from him and hear that he's outraged and disgusted and disappointed and is on their side and believes that these people should be held accountable. But I do not blame him for that payout. We remember the stories about the friction that would happen between Prince Charles' camp and Queen Elizabeth's camp, and that we hear today against Prince William and King Charles's camp. The air is always punching up, saying, let me have a voice. And the monarch is always saying, wait your turn. So I do not believe that the king had any sort of, say in how they navigated the Epstein situation back then.
Yeah, sure. It's a good point. And, you know, I understand what they were doing. But, you know, when Andrew said, listen, I need $12 million, they must have said why. And if he said, well, there's this woman that I've never met, and she says that I abused her on 3 different continents, so I want to give her $12 million to shut up. The royals would have surely said, well, if you'd never met her, why'd you want the money? You know, so the question is what did he tell them at that point in order to get that money that he needed to pay off Virginia Giuffre? These are the facts that may or may not emerge as time continues. Kinsey, fantastic to talk to you as always. Thank you very much. Kinsey Schofield there, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Now, let's talk about the rape gang scandal. There are serious fears that it is continuing all over the country, especially in London. We'll talk to grooming gang survivor Ellie Reynolds next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's go straight over to my next guest. I want to talk about the rape gang scandal. She is a survivor of that scourge. She's from Barrow-in-Furness and went through a terrible ordeal herself. She was for a while involved in Labour's official inquiry into the rape gang scandal. Don't forget, 250,000 victims, most of them vulnerable young white girls all across the country. My next guest being one of them. These were victims, of course, of these gangs who were mainly made up of Muslim men of Pakistani origin. Well, let's talk to Ellie Reynolds. Welcome, Ellie.
Hello, you all right?
I'm good. Now, the BBC, this is why I wanted to get you on. This is talking about London. The BBC has conducted an investigation and essentially what they're saying is vulnerable women and girls as young as 14 are being lured into a world of forced sex by gangs in London. Some told the BBC they'd been raped by several men as payment for unmade drugs, debts, etc. So the Mayor of London, Ellie, some time ago, Sadiq Khan, said, oh, it's not going on in London. Although everybody accepted it was going on all over the rest of the country, Sadiq Khan tried to say it wasn't really happening in London. But it clearly was, and more worryingly, it clearly still is, and I think it's going on all over the country. I mean, you're steeped in all of this. Is it your belief that the rape gang scourge, the activity of these rape gangs, is still going on, not only in London but all across the country?
Definitely. I mean, Sadiq Khan was very quick to shut everything down, but so were the government. Like, all of the government were. They have a massive rug between them, and anything that they need to sweep under, they all hold hands and they do it together. I think as young as 14 isn't factually correct as well, because we all know that, you know, there's many girls and boys that are a lot younger than 14 that are dragged into this. We've got to be looking at the country and looking at different towns that are tiny compared to London are rife with it. So what mind is Sadiq Khan in to be that convinced that it's not happening? I think people need to start questioning why he's so sure on covering it up.
Indeed. I know I ask you this every time, but just quickly, briefly explain to my audience what happened to you.
So I'm a grooming gang survivor from the years 2013 till 2018. I was gang raped, I was forced with drugs, I was held hostage. There's currently, the police have took me seriously after 8 years of closing my case. I've just reopened my case. I did my AB a couple of weeks ago. You know, I still have the days where I have a certain man in this area that's just been charged with 9 counts of harassment. He's currently got a warrant out for his arrest. It's been days now, you know, if it was me or you, Kev, they'd have been raiding our house at 6 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, I'm currently reopening my case, although I'm not convinced that the authorities and the services want the justice for girls like me and young girls and boys that are still victims of this crime.
Let's get to the heart of what this rape gang scourge scandal is all about. It was that people like poor girls like you, and by the way, everybody, Ellie's from a very loving, happy home, so don't get the idea that every single victim of the rape gang scourge was somehow or other, you know, some kind of homeless kid from a sink estate that parents didn't love them at all. That's not the case. This affected all sorts of girls, including Ellie, who comes from a very happy family. But the heart of this scandal is this, isn't it, Ellie, that when you went to the authorities to say what was happening to you, you basically weren't believed, and that even if you were believed, people didn't want to get involved because the perpetrators are Muslim men of Pakistani origin, and people like the cops and the social workers and teachers and local politicians were afraid of being accused of racism and Islamophobia. So you were ignored, weren't you?
Yeah, not only ignored, but you'll find that a lot of authorities try to criminalise the victims. It's a lot easier for them to criminalise us than it is to deal with the problem. I think a lot of people will be seeing that after Sunday when the article comes out with the Daily Express on Keir Starmer being exposed. I think the police are so scared of being called racist that they don't face the problem head on. They would much rather victim blame, which is our problem in our country. This isn't our country anymore.
No, exactly. Now, yeah, I don't want to cut across the Express's exclusive. I know you've spoken to them. But what's the essence of what you're telling them?
So there was part 1 out, basically, in the Daily Express. Yep. It came out in newspaper today.
Right.
But on Sunday, Keir Starmer will be exposed for putting his name towards and convincing your likes of police officers to cover up the grooming gangs. He doesn't want them to be investigated. Essentially, he'd rather be giving them ASBOs.
He's not here to defend himself, and I'm sure he'd deny that, but I look forward to getting my Sunday Express on Sunday. But do you still feel abandoned, ignored by the authorities? Or because you quit from the official government rape gang inquiry, didn't you? Because they weren't really listening to you. They treated you as if you're second-class citizens. You have a very low opinion of the safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, don't you? Do you still feel that somehow or other the establishment are stacked against you?
Yeah, I mean, I put a post out the other day on my Twitter, and I did say, you know, I could probably speak for many others when I say this, but I have been taught over the years by the police and authorities how not to trust them, whereas I feel so supported by the public, and I feel like now I don't have any trust for authorities or police, but we lean on the public, and really it should be the other way around, but in regards to still feeling abandoned, not as much as I used to, because I think the police end up convincing you that much that they don't believe you, that you don't think anybody else is ever going to, whereas the support has been absolutely surreal from the public.
Well, I think everybody supports you. I mean, all decent people support you, but we know what happened in the past. Let's talk a little bit, before you go, Ellie, about the official government rape gang inquiry, the public inquiry that the government didn't ever want to get going, but were forced into it by the Cass report, Louise Casey, wasn't it? Her report, the Prime Minister finally saying, OK, we'll have an inquiry. Now, that was, I think it was in June. Any idea when this inquiry is actually going to start?
I'd be surprised if it ever did. I'd be surprised if it ever did. All I can say is the woman from NWG Network, Sadiq Khan, everybody really wants to have a Google on the articles that she'd done a couple of years prior to leading an inquiry for what are essentially young white girls and boys, because that would boggle your mind enough.
All right, well, we'll have a look at that. Explain, Ellie, why it was, because you were part of this inquiry, the official inquiry that never seems to happen, on what they called the victims panel, and you were one, I think, of 4 victims who just quit. Tell us why you quit.
I think it was a build-up over the time. I think how secretive everything was, I couldn't be in the same household as anybody. People had to leave the household while I was on these Teams meetings. When we got sent the the candidates, it was all password protected, locked down. They were very manipulative and gaslighting in the way that they spoke to you. They speak to you like you're some weak child. It was disgusting. And the fact that you can't mention the race or religion of your abusers doesn't sit well with me, because I don't believe that it would be the same if it was a white man.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Listen, Ellie, you know you got our support all the way. It's always great to talk to you. Let's talk again soon. The brilliant Ellie Reynolds there, a rape gang survivor. Next up, let's talk about sport with the head of sport at The Sun, Sean Costis. That next. Stay tuned.
And it's not beyond the wit of man, is it, Peter, to assume that Britain's most populous city might contain a couple of grooming gangs?
Of course, it was blatantly obvious to anybody involved in investigative journalism, law enforcement and more. If we just move on to the lamentable Sadiq Khan for a moment, what he has proven here is that he is, number one, either a liar, or number two, he is ignorant of the blatantly obvious.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit of a football fan, so there are two massive stories gripping my attention today. One, of course, is the former Prince Andrew and his problems with the police. The other is how Arsenal managed not to win against Wolves last night, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Arsenal were 2-0 up after 56 minutes. By the end, it was 2-2. Wolverhampton Wanderers, of course, firmly at the bottom of the league. Sean Costis, head of sport at The Sun, is in the studio. How did they manage that, Sean?
They just got more and more nervous, didn't they? They didn't close. You think at 2-0, you're all right. Then Wolves pull a worldie out the bag, and then it's panic stations towards the end. Messed up between Saliba and keeper David Raya. They score. A young lad, Adozie, who's never played before, first game in the Premier League, comes on as a sub. Had 6 minutes on there, wrecked Arsenal's title chances, and of course the rest of the country is laughing at Arsenal because they've, famously haven't won the title for so long, and now it looks like we're on for yet another wobble here, and all the talk today is about how much they're wobbling.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's that old expression, that it wasn't their legs that let them down, it was their heads.
Absolutely.
It's psychological.
It very much is. It's right in their heads now, and no matter how much they say we'll ignore the noise, we'll just get on with it, you can't ignore the noise. It's absolutely everywhere. I mean, they put out the official announcement of Bukayo Saka's new deal today, in which he says, "I want to win loads of trophies with Arsenal." It just looks ridiculous, but they were always going to put this out today. And in fact, you'll know as a newspaper man, Kevin, last night Saka had scored for Arsenal, so we had a back page of sign, seal, deliver, or the right stuff, him signing a new contract because they were winning. And then at 5 to 10, I've got my head in my hands, not because I'm an Arsenal fan, but because I've got to change the whole back page.
Waste of money.
Well, not necessarily in his case, but you've got to change the whole back page, the whole spread, the whole dynamic of the title race has changed. Man City are on their tail. Man City still have to play Arsenal. They've got a game in hand. Were they win their game in hand and beat Arsenal, Man City would be ahead in the title race.
And Man City, 6 points behind now? Or 5 points?
5 points, got a game in hand, and then they would just have to beat Arsenal.
What's Arteta been saying?
That he understands why they have to take the bullet, I think is what he's saying, that they understand that people are going to have a go at them. And indeed,
he carries on like this, he'll literally get a bullet from the fans.
Wolves have a TikTok account, and they're taking the mickey out of them today. They're showing them time wasting to try to hang on to a 2-1 win, and then with a kind of laughing emoji when their Wolves equalised. I mean, it's a bit rich, isn't it, for the team rock bottom of the Premier League to take the mickey out of the leaders, but they've done it. That's the signal of how everybody is on Arsenal's case, taking the mickey. They know they're vulnerable. They're like, and what have they got coming up?
Spurs,
North
right?
London derby on Sunday.
Is that Sunday, yeah?
Yeah, Spurs. First game under the new manager, Igor Tudor. Of course, they've got their own relegation problems, but this just adds a little bit extra to it, that Arsenal have to win it. They need to stay to keep the title race hopes alive for them, to make sure they can win it. And now they've got this having to go to Spurs, which has just got, so many stories around it now. This match, great fun. I think keeps us all excited.
And City, of course, have been inconsistent through the season, but they are beginning to hit a run of form, aren't they? I mean,
they're okay, but they've got the mighty Newcastle on Saturday night. So 8 o'clock on Saturday night.
Biased report coming up, everybody.
But 8 o'clock on Saturday night it's Man City. Now, of course, Man City could lose or draw, and then it changes the dynamic again. But even I know that we struggle against Manchester City, even though Newcastle have been on a very good run.
Yeah, they were 6-1 last night.
6-1 last night at the mighty Qarabag.
That was unexpectedly good, wasn't it?
Well, we could have had 10 in the first half, to be honest. I mean, Newcastle were very good, but Qarabag are very bad. They're not great. They're not a great side, and they're not playing that many matches at the moment because after the winter shutdown. So, but it was good. So Newcastle are quite confident playing City. So all sorts of things can happen this weekend.
Oh my God, it's just extraordinary. A month ago, no one would have put any money on Arsenal not winning the Premiership.
Everybody was saying they were going to win.
Now I'd be reticent to put any money on them actually doing it.
Absolutely, of course you would. I mean, City have been there, done it, know what they're doing exactly, and you feel like they're coming to get them.
And Arsenal was second last season, were they? So? Second is for losers, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean,
what else is happening on Saturday apart from that match?
What else is happening on Saturday? Well, apart from Newcastle playing.
Yeah, apart from the... I know, big match.
Well, that is really
Fulham,
the most...
Sunderland-Fulham, huge game, yeah.
Sunderland-Fulham, when's that? Is that Sunday?
Yeah, my producer...
It is. Sunderland-Fulham is Sunday, yes, you're quite right. And Forest-Liverpool as well. We also do have some European action tonight, because Forest are playing against French Forest, I think, in the playoff for the Europa League, and Palace are also in action in the playoff for the Conference. So they've got European ambitions still, even if Forest may be more concerned about whether they'll get relegated, I would say.
Oh dear! Well, it's just extraordinary. So Arteta must. I mean, what will he be saying to his players?
But it's like I said. But I think last night he probably gave them a good going over behind closed doors.
I didn't watch the game, but obviously
behind closed
doors.
He's fuming. You could see in his face when he was camera that he was fuming, really annoyed that they'd blown it. And of course, they drew at Brentford in their previous game against Brentford in their previous game as well. So they've dropped 4 points out of the last 6. He's fuming. He knows everybody's going to be laughing at them, taking the mickey, and now he's got to somehow convince them that they can be title winners when there really isn't a lot of evidence for why they should be, to be honest. He's struggling. He's a little bit worried.
I've got a note here saying Arsenal are the worst Premier League leaders in a decade. I like that.
It's starting to feel like that, isn't it? That they're not going to close this out. It must be a big worry. Yes, we can all laugh, but for Arteta, who's built his whole sort of coaching life on this moment and has tried for 6 years to win this title, when it looked like it was there.
Unbelievable. I mean, Wolves scored their equaliser way into extra time, into injury time. But did Arsenal were by then playing for time?
Oh yeah, this is what the Wolves TikTok video takes the mickey out of them, going down, rolling around, showing that they were hanging on. The truth is they were hanging on, and they couldn't hang on. And that, if you are aspiring to be title winners, the best team in the country, should you really be trying to hang on against Wolves?
I'll tell you what, they better beat Spurs on Sunday, right? Yeah, they better win. They better win that, otherwise they'll be all...
Absolutely.
But I mean, Arsenal fans, they just moan about everything, but they've got every reason to be moaning right now. Extraordinary stuff, Sean. Sean Costis, head of sport at The Sun there, with the latest on Arsenal and their declining fortunes. When we come back, we'll be talking about the big stories of the day. Of course, the biggest story is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as far as we know, still in police custody being interviewed. What a day. That next, stay tuned.
UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to resume our coverage of the predicament of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor in just a second. Of course, he was arrested this morning at 8 a.m. after a swoop police raid on his house on the Sandringham Royal Estate. He is being interviewed under suspicion of misconduct in a public office. He stands accused of basically selling British secrets when he was a trade envoy to his pedo billionaire pal Jeffrey Epstein and other financial associates. He has not been charged, and at this stage there is no suggestion that he is in any way saying yes or admitting any of these allegations. But we will continue to cover that in just a second. I just want to say, though, there are other things going on. And towards the end of the hour, we're going to be taking your calls, 0344 499 1000. After my exclusive interview with Rupert Lowe last night, the leader of the new political party Restore Britain, I think it's fair to say that there is a serious fracturing on the right. Rupert Lowe revealing to me that 70,000 people tried to join his party yesterday. This is going to spell problems for Reform UK. Then you've got Ben Habib, his party Advance UK, another right-wing party. So Restore Britain and Advance UK, further right than Reform UK. Do you fear that this fracturing of the right will mean that the left can numerically beat them? You know, that a mad mosaic of Labour, the Green Party, the Lib Dems and all the others might be able to beat them. So let me know if you would like Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib and Nigel Farage to settle their differences, maybe a pact with the Tories. What do you think about what is going on the right? Because it's a frenzy of activity and the right seems to be splintering. 0344 499 1000. Also, let me know what you think about the Chagos Islands, because President Trump, we have a treaty that says we're not allowed to give away those islands to anyone unless we get American approval. Well, President Trump last night posted on social media that he very much does not approve of us giving away the Chagos Islands to China's best friend, Mauritius. It looks as if Starmer is just going to overrule that. He's not going to pay any attention to it. He's going to go ahead. Why have Keir Starmer, Richard Hermer, the Attorney General, why are they so obsessed with giving away this strategic territory in the Indian Ocean that's ours to China's best friend Mauritius? Why? Why are they doing it? And what about the Chagosians? What about their sovereignty? It's their land. They're getting arrested these days for even trying to set foot on their land. That happened a couple of days ago. What about their sovereignty? What about these people? It's their land. They were never part of Mauritius. Mauritius is 1,300 miles away. It's about the distance from London to Marrakesh. Quite why we are going, here, Mauritius, have it. Why? It's ridiculous. What do you think about that? Should we listen to President Trump, and should we stop that mad deal right now? 0344 499 1000. Right, let's resume our coverage of the Andrew Mountbatten Windsor saga, and let's go over to talk reporter Ollie Cole, who is live at Sandringham. Hi, Ollie.
Hi there, Kev.
So give us the latest, give us an assessment of what's been going on, what the atmosphere is like now, and what we expect to happen, what has happened throughout this day, and what we expect to happen fairly soon. I assume there are expectations that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor may return to his home, his new home on the Sandringham Royal Estate fairly soon.
Yeah, well, about 8 o'clock this morning, 6 police cars unmarked arrived here at a wood farm just behind me at the Sandringham estate. They spoke to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. They then arrested him on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Around about 10 o'clock this morning, Thames Valley Police confirmed that arrest. He is now being questioned. He is in police custody, being questioned about those allegations. We believe that to be taking place about sort of 3 hours away from here. But what's happening here at Sandringham and also at Andrew's addresses in Windsor is police are now searching those addresses for any information they think is relevant to their inquiries. So going through paperwork, going through computer files, basically trawling through everything from the period that they're looking at, his time as a trade envoy, and working out what pertains to this particular case. Obviously, Prince Andrew has always denied wrongdoing, but we know that he's fallen out of favour with the royal family in recent years, and that is indeed why he was moved to this part of the Sandringham estate, moved out of the way a little bit. He's only been here for about a few weeks. He now finds himself being questioned by police, and obviously what we're all waiting for now is they have 24 hours to question him initially. They can extend that by applying to a magistrate's court up to about sort of 96 hours, but then the police will have to decide whether Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is charged or whether to release him back here. But currently those investigations still going on behind me here in Sandringham and Andrew's address in Windsor.
Ollie, great stuff. Thank you very much. Excellent report. That's Ollie Cole, talk reporter, live up at Sandringham, where it's all been happening today. Let's go over now to royal biographer Angela Levin to get her take on the astonishing sequence of events that have unfolded today. Well, first of all, Angela, welcome, by the way. First of all, just as a long-standing royal journalist, royal reporter, royal biographer, your personal feelings about what you've witnessed today, because, you know, I've been around a few years, and this may well be, and I've covered, or I've been around some of the biggest stories ever, and this may well be, to my mind, the most shocking story, the most astonishing story I've ever seen.
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, I've loved the royal family, and I think they do a great job, and I've been close to them, and I've seen them doing this important job for so many people, and I see again the people who absolutely want to wipe it out. But this time, it's too horrible to imagine, I think, and I really hope that it keeps going, because I've always felt that it's very important for us to have the royal family, and they do very good things for us all. But with something like this, it is such a shock, because in my mind, not only does it affect Andrew, it affects Sarah, and it affects Eugenie and his sister. And I think that in a way it's a very unpleasant taste for that. And it does upset me a great deal, really. I couldn't bear it without a royal family.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. Could be existential. It certainly is a serious problem for the King, for King Charles, and not long after waiting for God knows how long, decades and decades and decades to ascend to the throne, he finds his reign in trouble. A lot of calls for William to take over, the possibility of an abdication. Frankly, I would say that's an outside chance, but this is a serious crisis for King Charles to have to endure. And I thought his statement today, at around about midday, starting with, I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. You know what is missing in that first paragraph? It's the words, my brother. I think the King is in the process, or if he hasn't already done so, of just completely cutting this guy off. I think it's the only way for the royal family. Now, again, I've got to stress, we don't know his guilt. He hasn't been charged with anything, but we've seen the evidence against him, that he stands accused of selling Britain down the river, misconduct in a public office when he was trade envoy. He also has coming down the track a potential investigation into his involvement into Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking racket. The royal family need to distance themselves from this man, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it does seem that he doesn't care two hoots about the country, about the royal family, about what they're doing, and about him being a part of this. And it's not necessarily because he hasn't got a job now, because that's his fault, but actually to make people feel that how you're behaving is absolutely disgusting makes a big difference. And you can't sort of warm to someone. And I think we do need a royal family, and he's just absolutely crushing it. Yeah. And I think that's a terrible thing to do. I mean, he has been very superior, and he hasn't liked King Charles, well, Prince Charles. He always felt he would become a better king than his brother, who was actually the heir to the throne. So he's been nasty and unpleasant, and he was nasty and unpleasant about Camilla, nagging the Queen Elizabeth that she's not allowed to marry him. So he's not actually somebody that the king has liked very much. But the fact that he could behave so badly with no moral behavior that is understandable is shocking. But actually it seems that Sarah has been appalling as well. I read this evening, that Epstein decided that he would give her the money she wanted the minute she divorced from Andrew. Now, I didn't know that. So he was actually keeping her, which is why she secretly sent letters saying, you're so wonderful, please marry me. I mean, it's just shocking what behaviour. And the two girls have actually known what's gone on. I thought they didn't get involved at all. They know what's going on. And one must think, well, perhaps we should take several steps back from them too.
I think there are questions that Bea and Eugenie need to answer very seriously, because you're right. There was. Do you remember when the story first emerged? People going, "How could Fergie take her little daughters to see a convicted paedophile 5 days after he was released from prison?" And then we found out the nuance that they weren't little girls; they were 19 and 20 at the time. And don't forget,
just the age he likes. Just the age he likes.
Yeah, but so they must have known about their parents' nefarious benefactor. Important to stress, Angela, of course, that it's not actually illegal to take money from a convicted paedophile, but should he prove to be guilty, it is illegal to sell that convicted paedophile state secrets or secret information from the British government. So the Prince or Andrew has not been charged with that yet, and has always denied any wrongdoing when it comes to the sex trafficking and Epstein's girls. But he's also being probed by 9 police forces with a view to these 90 flights that the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown talked about, of the Lolita Express, Epstein's private jet, flying girls into Britain, some of whom were allegedly taken straight to Buckingham Palace to spend an evening of entertainment and frivolity with the then Prince Andrew. He's got all of that coming down the track. It's a terrible day for him today, his unhappy birthday, but in terms of the sex trafficking allegations, things could get a lot worse for him, couldn't they?
Yes, it will also take quite a long time. All these things are going to be done quite slowly to get them sorted. And so it can go on for years. And of course, that actually has such a nasty taste in that. And it's very difficult to cope with, I think. And I worry about the king. I mean, we know that he's much better with his cancer, but it's there. And I think the stress actually can make people get ill and be very, very hard for them. He's very brave, and he can rise above anything, really, and he has done. But nonetheless, it is a very difficult thing for him to do, particularly when it's his own brother. And he also keeps thinking of his late mother, and it's very difficult to know how to behave. So that's not going to be something that will take him a couple of days. It's going to go on and on for many months, if not years.
I'll tell you what's interesting, Andrew, is the King, or Prince Charles, as he was, the Prince of Wales, when the Queen, the late Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, went to Tony Blair and said, oh, I've got this second son of mine, Andrew, you know, he's just quit the Navy and I don't know what to do with him. Can you find him a job? And Tony Blair said, how about international trade envoy, travelling the world, drumming up trade for this country? Prince Charles, exactly, Prince Charles, to his credit, said that this is a disaster waiting to happen. Prince Charles advised seriously against this, but it went ahead, and the rest now is history. The question has to be of the King is, how much did he know about what his brother was up to, potentially criminally or otherwise, if he at all knew anything. But he will have to be asked. And what I'm thinking about, I've been very sort of tough reporter all day, so the King's got questions to answer, you know, and so have B and Eugenie and Fergie, yeah, they've got questions, the whole royal family. And then I've just started to think, you know, I've started to think, you know, this guy, Andrew, what he's done to this family is absolutely appalling, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. The thing is, the King won't be required to talk in prison or anything like that. I mean, he won't be asked in any of those questions. He will have somebody else to do that for him. I don't think he's going to.
I'll tell you what I think about that, Andrew. I think that's not good enough. I've had enough of this deference. Oh, we can't interview the King. Why not? Why not?
Well, I have the deference, actually.
You do, but
yes.
Well, I don't.
I think very highly of him, and
I don't look. Don't get me wrong. I just don't see why, if it was anyone else, the police would talk to him. Why won't they talk to him just because he's the King?
Because I think just speaking about some of the words about his brother are actually disgusting, and I think he should rise above that. I know I'm old-fashioned, but I really think that, and I feel that it's very, very hard for him. I don't know how much he knows because they're not close. So Andrew wouldn't have whispered into him, you know, what's going on. And actually the aides, which you think would do something, I think 90% of them won't, because they're scared about losing their job. Because if they say Andrew did X, and then Andrew would blow up and say, absolutely not, how dare they? It's a very difficult situation for them. I remember they did that for Harry about drugs at school, and they didn't dare say much because they thought that Charles would sack them. And I think this is the same thing, that you have these people looking after things, but actually in the end they can't really say too much because they can't trample on what you've got.
I'll tell you what, though, you know, by the way, I respect your deference. You know, I'm just not you know, normally, I take your point, I'm just not feeling it at the moment. I've just about had enough of this. I just think they need to be treated like everyone else. And half the reason we've ended up at this low point is because of this deference they've always been shown, and their impulse to secrecy, to gather around and try and, you know, protect the horses. And something's got to change in the royal setup, I think. They've got to be more transparent and stop keeping secrets from the public.
Yeah, but they are doing much better. I mean, a year or so, 2 years ago, King Charles would never have said he had cancer. We wouldn't know what was going on. I mean, the royal family never said what was their illnesses. The Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they're getting better. You're right, they're getting better. Slowly but surely they're being dragged, kicking and screaming into the 21st century. Angela, really good to talk. It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Angela Levin, their royal biographer. We're going to go to break now. When we come back, we'll talk to barrister and social and political commentator Stephen Barrett. Looking forward to that next. Stay tuned.
And it's not beyond the wit of man, is it, Peter, to assume that Britain's most populous city might contain a couple of grooming gangs?
Of course, it was blatantly obvious to anybody involved in investigative journalism, law enforcement and more. If we just move on to the lamentable Sadiq Khan for a moment, what he has proven here is that he is, number one, either a liar, or number two, he is ignorant of the blatantly obvious.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest, barrister, writer, gentleman about town, Stephen Barrett. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, good evening to you.
I use the term gentleman loosely, of course.
I am officially a gentleman. All barristers are when we're called. We get published in the Times, the Court Circular of the Times. So we are.
You are a gentleman. I never doubted it. I never doubted it. As in the gents when you go to the loo, right? Okay. First of all, Stephen, seriously, just give me your impression, you know, as a commentator, as a citizen of this country, about the events we've seen today. You know, as you know, I've been around a few years. I've covered and been involved in some of the biggest stories around as a journalist. This is the most sensational story I think I've ever seen.
Well, Kev, I'm going to disappoint you because I think it's a massive distraction. I think the entire thing has been manufactured to detract attention from Peter Mandelson, the Prime Minister who needs to resign, and Gordon Brown's own actions in bringing Peter Mandelson back into cabinet. And Peter Mandelson is connected with all sorts of much more dodgy stuff than Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, who, by the way, the charge, and if the Prime Minister was in any way consistent, by the way, Kev, he would have shut this down or the discussion on this, because he'd say, we mustn't worry the trial, we mustn't, threaten justice, as he would if it were a Labour person, but instead he's pouring oil on the flames. Andrew's charged with effectively an economic crime. That's what's going on. There's no...
There might be worse charges coming down the tracks, though.
There may very well be. There may also be for others, and I do worry that this is merely a distraction for the public. I'm very happy.
Good distraction, though. It's working, isn't it?
Well, I think so, but I mean, I've never rated Prince Andrew. I don't know anybody who seriously
I don't think we've
has.
ever rated him. Look, here's the thing, Stephen. I take your point. I think what I was trying to say is, whatever the reason for what happened this morning at 8 a.m., I never thought I'd see the day where the King's brother was raided by police, arrested and taken to a police station to be interviewed under caution. That is, whatever the reason, a distraction or not, that was and remains an extraordinary sight to see.
It is. If I'm absolutely candid, Kev, I never thought I'd see a day when the late Queen died. And I never thought I'd see a day that we're seeing quite a lot of things happening in our country and our world at the moment that I never thought I'd see. Perhaps we've lived under the illusion of luxury for far too long. Perhaps reality was always going to crash into us in the face. If it does, Kev, then I think we need to man up. I think we need to get quite tough. And I think we need to get ready for things being really quite awful. And there being some really quite awful things that come out. And we need to focus on who we are as a country. I think it's desperately important that we look to ourselves, sort that out, decide that we all like each other again, and then agree to get through whatever is coming. But yeah, I never thought that this would happen. But it's that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's entire life has been scandal after scandal after scandal. And Fergie's too, let's be absolutely honest.
Totally.
And one of the great tragedies was that the late Queen, who I still absolutely adore, who we as a family still pray for, the late Queen, she clearly adored him. But that's what happens with children, isn't it? You don't necessarily pick your children. They are what they are. I liked your comment about not returning the deference, because quite clearly there's no place for deference now.
I agree,
And we have been, and I want to remind people, we've been very muscular with the royal family in the past. I like the royal family. I like having the crown. I like having a constitutional monarchy.
Agreed.
It doesn't have to be this family. Okay, and I just want to be absolutely categorical on that. We have messed around. Parliament has changed who is the royal family more times, than it's done it enough.
I couldn't agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more, Stephen. This nonsense of saying, the police won't actually talk to the King. Why not? This is exactly the nonsensical, dysfunctional deference that we must destroy. Talk to the damn King and ask him what he knows. If he turns around and says, in all honesty, I don't know anything, fair enough. But you can't not talk to him. The police have to interview him, in my mind. Now, interesting what you said about Peter Mandelson, and you're a lawyer. You might understand some of these nuances. Now, it all started very quickly with Mandelson, and if you look at the evidence in the Epstein files, the veracity of which has to be established, but these were copies of emails and communications that were allegedly forwarded by both Mandelson and Prince Andrew to Epstein, and in Andrew's case, allegedly to other financier friends as well, secrets that should not have been forwarded. So the evidence is very similar to the two of them. So, what was it, 2 weeks ago, they seemed to move like greased lightning with Mandelson. So within 24 hours or a couple of days, they were in his house in Regent's Park and in Wiltshire, pulling out boxes, the British equivalent of the Pert Walk. You must be guilty. We've got a box in our hands, that's what the cops do. So they did all that. And at that point, we're saying, well, why aren't you doing this with Andrew as well? But they didn't. And then suddenly today, they go in and they arrest Andrew, and yet, with a view, he'll be interviewed under caution at the moment. He hasn't been charged, but it will be with a view potentially to charging him. So that process is underway, but they haven't even though they raided his house 2 weeks ago, they haven't arrested Mandelson. What's that about?
No, they haven't. And his company is going to be put into administration, and they haven't taken steps to secure all the information in that. And that looks to me like a very dangerous way that we might lose information that we might need. Now, all of this is complete supposition, and I extend to both the former Prince Andrew and to Peter Mandelson the benefit of innocence until proven guilty. Indeed, I think extending that benefit to people is, when people say, what is Britain? I almost think innocent until proven guilty is absolutely at the core of what it is to be British. So of course I will extend that benefit to them both, but there's no way you can arrest one of them and not arrest the other. That's just, rules must be applied consistently, and when information is publicly available, we know what is available. And it's going to get very difficult, Kev, because if you're sympathetic to the Metropolitan Police, and this by the way is Thames Valley Police, yes, who have and I hate this, but I wasn't in control of the Conservative Party when they created these police and crime commissioners. But let's be absolutely honest, the Thames Valley Police has a Conservative police and crime commissioner, and they've taken action against Prince Andrew. We are told that the force investigating Lord Mandelson is the Metropolitan Police, who have a Labour police and crime commissioner. Now, I would not have invented police and crime commissioners. If you come up to me 15 years ago, or whatever it was, and go, Stephen, do you think this is a good idea? I'd say, no, I think you'll accidentally end up politicising your police force. Even if they're completely honest, they'll look dodgy as hell at some point. So keep your police impartial. That's what Robert Peel told everyone to do. The great Robert Peel, by the way, is a genius. If anybody thinks I'm clever, Robert Peel is an absolute he was a living genius, and he knew to keep the police impartial. But they've done this, and now we're in this sticky situation where Lord Mandelson is not arrested by a police force controlled by the Labour Party.
Yeah, that's really
and Prince Andrew is arrested by a police force controlled by the Conservative Party.
Really interesting. Listen, let me just ask you a very quick last question to get off the royal beat, as it were. I'd be fascinated to get your take on what they're calling now the fight on the right. I interviewed exclusively last night Rupert Lowe, his first broadcast interview about his new party, Restore Britain. He was telling me that yesterday alone 70,000 people tried to join his party. You've also got Ben Habib's right-wing party, Advance UK. Both of those parties are further right than Reform UK. But what we're seeing, it seems to me, is a splintering, a fracturing of the right, which could cause problems going forward if we get this kind of coalition of the left, Labour, Greens, Lib Dems, all of that lot coming together, and numerically they might be able to beat, Reform UK at an election if Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib and others are splintering the right. What's your feeling about all of this?
Well, I have had 48 hours of absolutely toxic abuse on Twitter from these anonymous accounts which purport to support Rupert Lowe. That has been ugly and vile. I don't actually consider them right-wing, Kev, and I've found no difference between them and the far left, to be perfectly honest. But I think it represents a darkness in our country that I do not like. I do not want this. I've seen people I deeply respect, ironically, on the right and on the left, because I've seen. I won't name individuals, I don't wish to embarrass them, but I've seen friends who are left-wing friends who have also experienced this vileness. It's a wrongness. Now, Kev, if I were to get very, very technical intellectually, I'd say I expected all of this, and all of this is actually it's entirely predictable. Yeah. We are the Weimar Republic, and what you've seen over the years is the emergence of the communists. They're now quite clearly the Green Party of the communists, but also they've been in a number of movements which have been very disruptive, very black-clad. They've been finding any reason under the sun, perhaps because they hate Jews or whatever, to attack buildings and to just be disruptive. The black-clad people. What you're now seeing, I think, is the rise of the nationalists, and they come in to combat this force. Both of them are wrong, and at all times, anybody who is a decent person, and I don't care what your political background is, because I think that's all going to stop mattering. We almost have to form one single coalition of the decent, The people who actually want to live in a good country with peace and prosperity and options for the kids and no purity tests or the communists are just as bad as the nationalists. The nationalists will have a purity test over race, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And by the way, I'd pass any purity test for race that they wanted to have, and I still think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Don't think I would.
Well, it's just a nonsense, Kev. It's absolute nonsense.
I hope I wouldn't.
The communist children have a purity test over ideology, and then the two of them fight and they fall out. This is absolute classic. We've seen all of this before. What we instead want as a country is to restore democracy and restore, the basic balance of capitalism and free markets, and let's be a nation of shopkeepers again. And let's occasionally let the Labour Party win. If they win an election, let's occasionally let them do their type of politics, and let's occasionally let the Conservative Party or whatever form of a party win, a right-wing party win elections. It's clearly Reform now. It's not really the Conservative Party, which is a bit of a dead husk. So let that party sometimes win elections and sometimes get their way, and let everybody who loses an election shake the hand of the winner and say, it's okay, I respect you, the best man won, good luck to your period. When we're back in office, we'll do these things slightly differently. Instead, this uni-party has led to this. It's created both the communists and the nationalists.
Yeah.
And it will destroy us all in violence if we don't come together and restore democracy.
Very interesting. Listen, Stephen, come on next week. Let's have a proper discussion about all of this. It's always great to talk to you, mate. That's Stephen Barrett, barrister and writer. What do you think about what he's saying about the right? I mean, it's a very kind of fractious atmosphere right now. It's not, as Stephen's saying, it's not pleasant. There's a lot of, attrition in the air. But anyway, let me know what you think. The fracturing of the right. Also, Chagos Islands. President Trump saying, don't do this, it's madness. Could that be an 11th hour intervention that will change the course of history, and we don't give the Chagos Islands to Mauritius because it is under treaty supposed to be the case that we have to get approval of America before we give that strategic territory away to everybody, to anybody. Do you think Trump might have stopped it, or will Starmer and Hermer and his human rights gang plough ahead with this ludicrous giveaway to Mauritius, China's best friend, that nobody except them wants? What is that all about? 03444991000. When we come back, we'll try to find out what's going to be in the pages of Britain's favourite newspaper, The Sun, tomorrow. For me, I'm just wondering what the hell is going to be on the front page. Let's see if Deputy Head of News at The Sun, Will Barker, can tell me. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just talking about Frank Sinatra there, don't know why. Because Will Barker, head of news at The Sun, is in the studio, deputy head of news. And we're going to try and find out what is going to be in the pages of the nation's favourite newspaper tomorrow. Well, not much going on, Will. What do you think you might
Quiet
put on?
day, you know.
What might you put on the front
Might
page?
find some Katie Price stories. Something.
Of course, it's a day for Katie. No, of course, we've got this sensational, as I say, you know, I've been on The Sun years ago. Probably when you were in short trousers. But, you know, I've been in lots of newspapers. And I can't remember a more astonishing story than the King's brother, being arrested by the police, still, we think, in a police station somewhere, being interviewed under caution. We were just saying, sometimes you get a massive story, you don't quite know what to do with it. Which way are you heading on The Sun?
I mean, it's so hard to kind of pull all these things together. There's so many different elements of where it can go and what's going to happen. And we've been trying to sort of almost, I feel like I've been walking around with a crystal ball today, trying to work out what's going to happen, because there's no precedence for this. This is, you know, this happened in 1647 last time.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Is that right?
That's the last time since Charles I was nicked.
Yeah.
Never been happening again. So we're just trying to work out where we go next with all of it.
Yeah.
But I think, importantly, you just have to lay out the facts. We were sitting there at 8 o'clock this morning. We've got an agency down there covering Sandringham.
Yeah.
And we get the call that these convoy of cars have suddenly gone in. That one of the snappers recognised that they are a copper. Well, surely this is it. This is what's going on. But I mean, I don't know whether they know it's his birthday today.
Yeah, it's his birthday. Unhappy, but 66, is it?
Yeah. So he's becoming a pensioner.
He won't forget his birthday.
Exactly. He's waking up. So they move in this sort of pincer movement at the house, go to the back, go to the front, go and knock on the door, tell his butlers or whatever that they're coming for him.
But you know what, they do the standard issue in case he runs out the back, which is extraordinary. You know, we were laughing earlier, so you can imagine him making a run for it, climbing over a fence and ripping his trousers on the barbed wire or something.
Oh, it's just extraordinary.
But I mean, the way things are going with this story, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
A very terse statement from the King. I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, not mentioning that he's his brother, and suspicion of misconduct.
And he does his full name, not mentioning.
He's not. That is his brother. Yeah. But he today not strange. I suppose he's keen to say business as usual. He's sitting in the front row at London Fashion Week. And the word is that basically the royal family, and led by the King, have decided, Andrew, you are on your own.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very much the mantra of his mum, you know, keep calm and carry on, has been the order of the day. Various people have sort of shouted, a little bit of minor kind of heckling, not very strong, down there at these events. We were been watching them, and they've just, I mean, there's pictures of him sort of grinning, pictures of them sort of going around shaking people's hands, almost, you know, like you said, business as usual, really.
I read somewhere that Princess Anne, a very hard-working royal, does more engagements than any of the rest of the royal family, was today making a regal visit to Leeds prison.
Yes.
Presumably having a look at the cells to
exactly.
see what they might be like for a brother.
Exactly, checking out the beds.
Yes.
The beds are covered.
Andrew, I've got some bad news. It's not very comfortable, you know.
Well, I mean, even before that, we just don't know what's going to happen to him tonight. I just can't imagine, you know, is he one of these custody suites? We think it's somewhere in the kind of Thames Valley area. So they would have driven him down from Sandringham. They probably would have, but this is a lot of guesswork, they probably would only start talking to him about 1 o'clock. So they're not really well.
And these things take hours.
Take hours.
Hours.
So,
and I predict, I mean, he'd be interviewed under caution. And I predict that it'll be released under caution, and they won't be charging him today. Usually, they'll take some time to come to a point where they think they can charge. Got to stress, he hasn't been charged.
And he denies it.
And there's no admission of guilt by the former Prince Andrew at all. Yep. Right, let's try something else, shall we, as well? The Winter Olympics have been providing some entertainment. Love the story about the guys injecting their manhood in order to make it bigger so that they could create flappy suits and fly on the ski jumps. Today or yesterday, I think we saw a dog running down the track taking part in the ski race. And now we've got a sports reporter from Australia, Danica Mason, who stumbled over her words, rambled a bit about iguanas, and was basically drunk. Have a look.
Well, like, the price of coffee over here is actually fine. It's more the price of coffee in the US that we are going to have to get used to. I'm not sure about the iguanas. Where are we going with that one? But anyway, let's get into today's sport because there is plenty happening back home. We're going to start off with some actual Brisbane Broncos gearing from the actually their trip to the UK rather, because Reece Walsh has stolen the show. He, of course, did that in the last year's Ashes series, crowning for 4 tries and claiming England's fans. But returned to the UK just 3 months following that UK club challenge.
This is a couple of drinks. She says, this is Danica Mason. Channel 9, from Channel 9's breakfast show, there at the Olympics in the Italian Alps, saying that she misjudged the situation by drinking before her appearance. I want to take full responsibility. It's not the standard I set myself. I'm genuinely sorry.
Yeah.
How many drinks do you think she'd had?
I don't know. I mean, if ever I'm sitting here with that sort of glazed look, talking rubbish, then I'm going to start blaming the altitude, the cold, what I ate for lunch.
Yeah, I've never seen you with a... talking rubbish, yes, but I've never seen you with a glazed look. I mean, seriously. That is one of those classics. That will last forever, folks. That will be played again and again and again. I wonder if she'll keep her job.
I don't know.
What would you do if a Sun reporter... Oh, actually, what am I talking about?
Constantly
You
like
expect
that.
Sun reporters to be like that. It certainly was the case in the old days.
Yeah.
It was a question of who was drunker, the news desk people or the reporters.
Yeah,
Usually the news desk won, to be fair.
Yeah, well, bear in mind she's Aussie, so I mean that is sort of. I think they're quite split.
Tinnies or loads of beer, loads of Fosters. That is hilarious. Will Bunker, fantastic, great review. Well, I look forward to what you decide to put all over the front. But I think I can assure you that tomorrow's Sun is going to be well worth reading. This is a hell of a story, folks. Thank you, Will. Next up, your calls, your messages. I don't know if we've got any WhatsApp voice notes, but if we have, we'll play them. So all of that next, still to come. Stay tuned.
And it's not beyond the wit of man, is it, Peter, to assume that Britain's most populous city might contain a couple of grooming gangs?
Of course, it was blatantly obvious to anybody involved in investigative journalism, law enforcement and more. If we just move on to the lamentable Sadiq Khan for a moment, what he has proven here is that he is, number one, either a liar, or number two, he is ignorant of the blatantly obvious.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's take some calls. Let's have a look at this. This is from, read a couple of texts, by the way. Martin in Oswestry. Andrew, formerly known as Prince, arrested. It's all for show. Nothing will happen. There will be a lot of noise and posturing. He'll be de-arrested and continue on his way. Yeah, I think the Times, you're referring to past behaviour, past systems, Martin. I think the Times might be a-changing. Let's see. If there's any case to answer, they won't let him off, that's for sure. We don't know if there's any case to answer, but if there is one, they will not let this guy off due to royal deference. What have we got here? This is... oh, God, I've got a lot of stuff about electric cars here. It feels as if all parties, new and old, are trying to define Britishness for me. I am British, English specifically. If I said that Britishness is a spirit, not a colour, creed, faith or politics, and that it hinges on a profound belief in good manners and fair play, I believe that would ring true with me. That's Matt talking about Britishness. Well, let's go to the phones, shall we? Let's talk to Mike in Wiltshire. Hello, Mike. You want to talk about the Chagos Islands? What would you like to say?
Hi, Kev. Back in the 70s, I worked on a drill ship in the Indian Ocean on the edge of the Chagos Islands.
Oh, did you? Amazing.
Yeah.
You're one of the very few people in the world who's ever been there.
Well, funny enough, I was going to say, if people want to know where the Chagos Islands are, draw a line between Mauritius and Sri Lanka, and it's 2/3 of the way up the line.
Okay.
Anyway, that's not why I'm phoning.
Yeah, thanks very much. Bye.
Every go
on. What would you like to say? Sorry.
Anyway, every 2 weeks we used to fly up from Mauritius up to the rig, and on the way we used to stop off at an island to refuel.
Yeah.
And while the crew were pumping the fuel in the helicopter, I used to go for a wander around the island and have a chat with the locals.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely people, really nice people, just want to get on with their lives.
Yes.
They earn a living from fishing, and I think used to breed turtles as well.
Yeah.
They just want to get on with their lives, and I bet the Prime Minister hasn't even had the audacity, he hasn't even had the manners to speak to these people.
Yes, I think you're right.
They know, he'd get a much better feel of what they would be losing, you know?
Yeah, they're getting thrown to the wolves, aren't they, Mike?
Yeah, and I think it's outrageous. They're even threatening to lock people up for 3 years in jail if they refuse to get off the islands.
It's their homeland. I mean,
Exactly.
What do you make of this kind of mad mania on the part of Keir Starmer to give away these islands for no particular reason?
I can't help thinking someone's on the fiddle, mate.
Yeah, follow the money.
Yeah,
I certainly wouldn't accuse the Prime Minister or the Attorney General Richard Hermer of that, but someone somewhere is making good money out of that, you can rest assured.
But I mean, Donald Trump keeps changing his mind about the ownership of.
Yeah, I know it's weird, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mike, we have I keep calling it a contract. It's a treaty. We have a treaty that dictates that we can't give away the Chagos Islands without American approval. Well, it doesn't look like we've got American approval, but
well, I don't know. So, I mean, I was watching something on the TV today, and it sounded like Trump wanted to, give his full approval to the Chagos Islands remaining under our rule.
Yeah, well, that seems to be his current state, but he keeps changing it day in, day out. Mike, fascinating. So you've actually been to the Chagos Islands. Really good to talk to you. Thank you for an excellent call. Mike in Wiltshire there. Let's go to Joan in Sunderland. Hello, Joan. Hello, Joan, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Of course I can. And what would you like to say about the Chagos Islands?
Well, yesterday I was a bit hopeful. Today I'm not so hopeful because we all know what this Prime Minister's like. Don't forget, he's a big wheel on the world stage. And if he can get one over Donald Trump, because he'll be mad that Donald Trump has sent him that statement. So he'll be really mad, and he'll be thinking to himself, I'll show him, I'll knock him back in his box. Yeah. And I think something like that will happen. But I'm also not amused at all with Donald Trump. Normally, I'm quite a fan of his. But the way he's gone on over this deal, to me, is beneath contempt.
He's been flip-flopping. And 1 week he says, no, this is madness. He said it was immensely stupid a couple of weeks ago. Then he said it's okay. And then yesterday he suddenly posted on social media it's madness and they mustn't do it. Now, as I say, we have a treaty that dictates we need American approval before we give away the Chagos Islands. It looks as if we're not getting that approval, but we're hearing Starmer's going to press ahead anyway and ignore the president's objections.
It most likely have already been done. That man will do it for spite. But if this deal goes ahead, I'm disgusted with the Lords and anybody else who hasn't had due diligence. I do hope that it'll not be a magnifying glass. It'll be a microscope to go over all the details to find out every person involved, what they did and what they got, because this stinks.
Yeah, we do need to have a look at it and follow the money, as always. Joan, great call. Let's go to Al in London. Hello, Al. You think that Andrew is the victim of a witch hunt, do you?
Well, Andrew Lowney's convicted him already, isn't he?
Well, Andrew Lowney's got a lot of evidence.
Well, he's still got to be tested. But I like the way you keep referring to him as a friend of a convicted paedophile. Jeffrey Epstein was not a convicted paedophile.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
No. Have you actually read the
he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from a minor.
He was 17. That doesn't make him a paedophile.
No, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from a minor. That's a paedophile offence, Al, as a matter of fact. No, that is a paedophile offence. There's no point in discussing that. That is a paedophile offence. A minor is underage.
In Britain.
Never mind Britain. That's not where he was nicked, was he? He was nicked in Florida. Yeah. So, he's a convicted paedophile. What was your next point?
Well, if you want to run with that...
don't run with it. It's a fact.
It's still hypocrisy over at Andrew. I mean...
you think he's completely innocent and this is all unfair?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that look at the comparison with Mike Tyson, who's a convicted rapist.
Well, what's that? I think that's good. You can hardly conflate.
It's been promoted by he's involved in an American government.
Well, I'll tell you what, Al. You go round telling everybody what a great guy Prince Andrew or the former Prince Andrew was, and how he wasn't the mate of a convicted paedophile, because you can enjoy that, but it's not true. So there's a problem with that. Anyway, thanks for a good call, Al in London. Alex Phillips is in the studio. Hi, Alex.
Hey.
Not much going on today.
Nah, just maybe doing a refurbishment of the Tower of London. Get that
one
spin
in,
and polish done. I think it'd be a great tourist attraction if he ended up there. It's like going back to the era of Richard III, real-life prince in the tower.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Mind you, no charges yet, and he maintains his innocence. So apart from Prince Andrew, what you got on your show?
We're going to be talking, well, migration is always the story, isn't it? And when we find out how much is being spent on foreigners claiming benefits,
you've seen that?
Billion,
yeah,
it's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
That's a huge story. But also there's something else knocking about that hasn't been spoken about enough, I don't think, which is one of the reasons that Trump has lost his patience with Starmer and said, right, this Chagos thing is done, it's gone. There's a big expose in Guido Fawkes about the lawyers involved in this as well, which is sort of, they're drip feeding us over the next few days.
Good.
But Starmer's turned around and said to America, you cannot use the US air bases in Britain to launch strikes against Iran. What is he thinking? That's crazy.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? And
but what's the point in having US air bases in Britain when they're supposed to be launching bombers to go and deal with mad hostile regimes that are killing tens of thousands of their own people and funding terrorism around the world?